Ja, also die erste deutsche Meisterschaft als Profi natürlich ein Highlight für mich.
Die größten Konkurrenten momentan sind auf jeden Fall Marcel und Danny. Auf die muss man immer Auge haben.
Ich denke, ich muss geschlagen werden, nicht ich die anderen.
Meine Ziele für die deutsche Meisterschaft sind natürlich, möglichst weit vorne zu stehen. Ein Podium wäre natürlich ein Träumchen.
Mein Ziel für die deutsche Meisterschaft ist, dass ich meinen 3. Titel hole.
Hello everybody and welcome to the German Pro Championships 2022 for the STIHL Timbersports. Today we will crown a German champion who will represent Germany at the International Individual World Championships at the end of October. Today you're seeing on screen Guido Husken and Markus Philipp, who are taking care of our German audience, and of course on the main stage we'll have Tobias Witten taking care of our live audience, and my name is Troy Mannering. I'll be along for the ride all day long, bringing you the action as we go through the contest with axe and saw to see who will become the German champion. Will it be a repeat by Danny Martin, or will somebody new step up to the top of the podium? Before all of that, though, we'll meet our stage moderator, Tobias Witten, and then shortly after that, we'll meet the athletes that will be competing today in the STIHL Timbersports German Pro Championship 2022 here in the beautiful Schirke Feuerstein Arena in Wernigerode in Harz, Germany.
Danny Martin natürlich nicht deutscher Meister, sondern Robert, aber Robert hat seinen Titel ja abgegeben bzw. seine Karriere beendet. Richtig. Also suchen wir heute einen neuen deutschen Meister. Und ja, wir dürfen sehr gespannt sein. Also es gibt sehr, sehr viele Top-Leistungen in den vergangenen Wochen von den Athleten zu hören.
So just shortly a little bit about the area that we are right now, and Danny Martin had the pleasure, and our pleasure is to follow him around the area and learn a little bit about what we'll be seeing today on stage. Let's check it out. Well, that last event that you just saw Danny doing a quick demo of the hot saw, that will be the ultimate final for us today. So we'll be looking forward to seeing those machines on stage at the end of our contest. But before that, we have 5 other disciplines to get through, including underhand chop, stock saw, standing block chop, single buck, and springboard. There will be 3 rounds getting us to that hot saw. But before then, let's meet our stage moderator, Tobias Witten.
Meisterschaft von STIHL Timbersports! Mega! Herzlich willkommen in der Schirka Feuerstein Arena zum großen Highlight der Pros. Schön, dass ihr da seid und ich möchte nicht nur euch begrüßen, sondern auch alle Zuschauer, die gerade im Livestream von The Zone mit dabei sind. Und natürlich möchte der Harz dem großen TV-Publikum auch zeigen, wie viel Stimmung er machen kann. Deswegen, habt ihr Bock auf die deutsche Meisterschaft? Oh, da vorne ist ein richtiger Fanclub. Ich glaube, ich weiß, zu wem der gehört. Und jetzt auch nochmal hier die historische Steintribüne. Habt ihr Bock auf Timbersports? Volle Hütte hier in Wernigerode. Ich freue mich, dass wir nach 2 Jahren Pause, so kann man das ja fast sagen, wieder richtig viele Zuschauer bei diesem geilen Extremsport begrüßen dürfen. Und heute werden wir die 10 besten Athleten Deutschlands an insgesamt 6 Disziplinen sehen. Ich glaube, das wird ein richtig geiler Tag. Das Ganze, das kann natürlich nur funktionieren mit einer großen Crew dahinter. Und 2 davon gehören zum Beispiel zum Moderationsteam. Die befinden sich im Studio für The Zone. Und wir gehen jetzt, bevor wir gleich einmal die Schiedsrichter und die Athleten begrüßen, nochmal kurz zurück ins Studio zu Markus Philipp und zu meinem lieben Kollegen Guido Hüsken. Viel Spaß!
Well, we've got a full arena here today, and as Tobias just introduced you to the area, it is ready to go. The space is rocking, and the people in the yellow are here to see one man in particular. We'll introduce you to him at the end of the list of athletes. And before that, you're seeing on stage really quickly Schul Janssen and Dr. Jörg Kutzenberger, our 2 referees that will be on stage today, taking care of the fair competition that is happening on our main stage, and that is an important role for both of these gentlemen. They'll be watching everything with trained eyes to make sure that everything is absolutely fair during the competition. So before we get into the competition, we're going to meet the athletes that will be competing today. And there you see right now Thomas Hofbauer getting ready to come up on stage. His best results was a 2nd place at the German Rookie Cup in 2014. He's got himself a bit of a pedigree as he has been competing for quite a few years now. He was 7th in the German Amorak Cup in 2019. And as a pro, one of his best results was the German Pro Championship in 2021, where he got 6th place. Looking to do some damage here today. Next up, coming onto stage, will be Stefan Graf, 45 years old. He's competed at the Ford Transit Cup in 2022 this year, reaching 6th place. The Ford Ranger Cup in 2022 this year, reaching 10th place. And the Pro German Championships in 2021, where he got 5th place. So he's definitely also one of those guys that's going to be looking to make some improvements here today. Next up, Stefan Odvark. He's got himself 38 years old. He's got himself some pretty decent results. His best result in the last little while was the Amarok Cup back in 2020, where he achieved 4th place. And again, all of these guys making big strides and training a lot in the off season. There you see Christoph Lang next coming up onto stage. Oh, wait a minute, that's not Christoph Lang. That's Andreas Strive. So Andreas Strive, 2nd at the Area 47 International Australian Championship in Austria. He's one of our guest athletes here today. Then we have Nils Müller. Excuse me, Andreas Strive is not one of our guest athletes. He is actually German. I thought he was Austrian. My mistake there. Andreas and Nils Müller on stage now. One of his best results was 4th at the Ford Ranger Cup in 2022 for the pros. And now we have Christoph Lang coming out onto the stage. 33 years young. An absolute animal, very, very strong athlete. German Ford Transit Cup, he was the bronze medalist there in 2022, 3rd place. 2nd place for the intermediates in 2019 at the German Championship. So he's been going from strength to strength. Now we have Peter Bauer coming up on stage. He isn't the biggest guy, but man, he's got some power. He has all the skills needed. He got second at the Ford Transit Cup 2022, silver medal there, so you'll be looking for him to do some damage today. And then we're going to meet the two favorites coming up on the stage. First up in the green shirt there, Marcel Steinkemper, just jumping out of the rookie. And already the German Ford Transit Cup, 4th place for him. The German Ford Ranger Cup 2022, 2nd place for him. 13th place at the European Trophy this year in France. And the German Newcomer Champion at 21. And the Ford Transit 2021 Rookie Champion. So he has a lot on his shoulders. And is probably the largest competitor for him today and for all the others. And the man that everybody is going to be keeping a close eye on is this man right here, Danny Martin. He is the German Ford Transit Cup champion for this year. The European Trophy, he got 10th place. The German Ford Ranger Cup this year, he won that one as well. The German Pro Championship in 2021, he was 2nd place. The 21 Ford Ranger Cup and Ford Transit Cup in 21, he won both of those events. So he is the man to beat today. He is the absolute favorite. But before we move on, there is one man that everybody is here to see today, in particular because of a couple of things. One, he's 57 years old. He's the oldest competitor in the field. He has been competing for a long time, and this will be his absolute final event competing for STIHL Timbersports. He's got a fan club here, and they are wild, all wearing yellow shirts and yellow hats. And we're going to meet that man right now, Stefan Stark. He was 2nd at the German Ford Ranger Cup in 2021. And this man is a legend here, and we're going to hear from him shortly.
Das kann man einfach nur genießen. Stefan, ich sage immer, dein Name ist Programm, nämlich stark. Wie fühlst du dich heute vor deinem letzten Wettkampf?
Körperlich bin ich ganz gut drauf. Emotional war ich die ganze Woche komplett im Arsch und ich hoffe, dass ich jetzt mit dem Rückhalt von meinem tollen Fanclub da noch ein bisschen was abliefern kann heute.
So the question is, how's he feeling about this last event? And he says, actually, I'm feeling pretty good, but the whole week was more or less lost, a lot of emotions, but he is ready and feeling good for this competition today. So Stefan Stark going on stage, greeting all of the guys who have looked up to him for so long. And there you can see some of his details. 1.87 meters tall, 100 kilograms, as I said, 57 years young, and still a relevant factor in this competition here today. So there you are, folks. That is our lineup of athletes for today. 3 rounds, and only one can walk away with the championship today. The question is, who will that be? There's a lot of action to come your way before we can actually find that out. And as I said, Guido and Marcus will be guiding our German-speaking audience on DAZN, and I will be taking you through the action as we go from discipline to discipline. Our first discipline coming up will be the underhand chop. The stage is set, but before that, let's take a quick look at what the format is for today and how we are going to whittle down all these athletes to our final 6.
Ja, und wir werden heute also den deutschen Meister, den neuen deutschen Meister küren. Robert Ebner, wie mehrfach erwähnt, nicht am Start, hat seine Karriere beendet. Deshalb brauchen wir einen Nachfolger für ihn und der wird in folgendem Wettkampfformat gekürt. So geht das jetzt in den nächsten 2,5 Stunden hier über die Bühne.
The STIHL Timbersports individual competition. In the first round, all athletes compete in 3 disciplines: the underhand chop, the stock saw, and the standing block chop. The times achieved will be converted into points upon completion of each discipline. In round 1, a difference of 1 point applies in each discipline, thus the fastest athlete received 12 points and the slowest only 1 point. Any rule infraction will result in a disqualification and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. At the end of the first round, the athletes with the lowest scores are eliminated. Only 8 athletes make it to the second round. In this second round, the remaining athletes compete in the single buck and the springboard for increased scores. With 2 points difference between placings, the fastest athlete now receives 16 points and the slowest receives 2. The 2 athletes with the lowest total points are eliminated at the end of round 2. Only the top 6 reach the third round. In the third round, anything is still possible in the hot saw, as an increased score interval of 3 points applies in this final round. The fastest athlete can score up to 18 points at the hot saw, the slowest only 3 points. The athlete who manages to achieve the highest total score across all 3 rounds is the new champion. So there you have it. There is our format for today's event. Underhand chop, stock saw, and standing block chop will be the first 3 disciplines in round number 1. Because we don't have 12 athletes, but 10 athletes, 2 athletes will be eliminated. Moving on to round 2, where we'll see the single buck and the springboard. And then we will eliminate 2 additional athletes for a final 6 going on to the hot saw. And for all you motorheads out there, the hot saw is an absolute treat. These machines are tuned to be beasts. So a lot of action still coming your way. And before all of that gets going, we're going to head over to the stage and see what the underhand chop is all about. That's our first discipline. And for that, let's check out the tool and discipline.
Wir beginnen aber natürlich erst einmal mit einer Disziplin, die noch nicht so wahnsinnig laut ist wie nachher die Hot Saw, die aber auch ganz, ganz viel vom Athleten verlangt. Es geht um den Underhand Chop und wir schauen uns mal an, was für ein Gerät, was für ein Werkzeug wird genutzt und was ist die Aufgabe.
The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand-sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom-built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut through a 32-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides.
Ja, klingt erstmal einfach, ist es aber gar nicht.
Okay, so the underhand chop in our starting lists are right there. As you can see, Thomas Hofbauer will be going up against Stefan Graf in heat number 1. And down the list all the way to our first head-to-head between the 2 guys that are considered to be favorites here, Danny Martin and Marcel Steinkemper. So let's see how this all pans out as the day goes on. As I said, plenty of action coming your way. And we're going to start things off with the underhand chop. On stage right now, you can see Thomas Hofbauer and Stefan Graf. Thomas Hofbauer's personal best, 36.60. Stefan Graf, a 34.83. So advantage to Stefan Graf at the moment. Let's see how these blocks are cutting today for our pros as we get going with the round number 1. Discipline number 1, heat number 1.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, first drivers coming in, and these guys are in sync with each other. A little bit of a hookup by Thomas Hofbauer and Stefan Graf working well on the first side of their blocks as the time starts to wind away on them. Let's see how well and how quickly they'll move over to the other side. You can see here some very nice drivers there from Stefan Graf. He's super accurate with that axe. He's about 4 strokes ahead of Thomas Hofbauer as Thomas is now just starting to work on the other side of his block. Stefan Graf just passing the 30-second mark, should be through fairly quickly here. Thomas Hofbauer Fighting from behind now, Stefan Graf with a 36.46. Thomas Hofbauer gets through there in 41.32. So there you go. We have our first heat done. You got to be careful clearing up that saw there, Thomas, or that axe. You don't want to cut your fingers on that incredibly sharp axe. So Stefan Graf with a very nice time of 41.16 after correction, actually.
Okay, both cuts are good.
So official times after correction, 41.15 for Thomas Hofbauer, 41.16 for Stefan Graf. Interesting. Looked like Stefan Graf was through his block earlier than Thomas Hofbauer, but it could be that there was some thread of wood hanging on for dear life and needed an extra hit there. No, there has been an adjustment here. Excuse me. The timing screen has now been changed. Stefan Graf with a 36.17 time. Thomas Hofbauer with a 41.15. But you can see right off the start in the slow-mos here, both of these guys pretty much in sync with each other. You can see Stefan Graf there, really nice, accurate drivers into the block, getting some nice big chips out of there. Looking very good on that first side, and he was fairly quick to switch over to the other side as well. And here the last couple of drivers for Stefan Graf as we see his shoes on the block there. And nicely done through in a time, official time of 36.17. Okay, next up, Stefan Odwarka going up against Christoph Lang. So here for these guys, it's about trying to get a best time, a personal best time here. Stefan Odwarka with a current personal best time of 31.15 and Christoph Lang with a 33.07. So at the moment, yes, they're fighting against the clock and each other, but they're also trying to make improvements in the way that they chop and how well they can get through these blocks. So let's see how we do here.
STIHL, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Ooh, very close start by Christoph Lang. It might be that they'll need to look at that. He was so quick on the axe, and he's quick with it right now as well. Both of them swinging with quite good frequency. Christoph got a little bit stuck there, but Odwarka working well, should move to the other side. It's going to be Christoph Lang onto the other side of his block, just slightly ahead of Christoph Lang, maybe a half an axe stroke. And both looking very good to come through in a solid time here. Is it going to be under 30 seconds? No, I don't think so, but it's going to be close. And Christoph Lang with a personal best 32.12. Very nice job to make an improvement. And Stefan Odwarka in a 36.73. Now, I should clarify that those times are unofficial until our judges give them the thumbs up and say everything is fine with the cuts, and our competition control center can do the final mini calculation. Sometimes we have small adjustments there. Let's see.
Both cuts are good.
Okay, so Christoph Lang takes over the lead in the underhand chop with a great time and a personal best of 31.80 seconds. Stefan Graf holding on to second. Stefan Odwarka is shifted into third place there with a good time of 36.40. And Thomas Hofbauer from the first heat is sitting in fourth place in underhand chop for the moment with a time of 41.15. And you can see in the slow-mos here, yeah, you need to have that power, but the endurance plays such a huge role. The fitness level of these guys is so important because you've got to keep that axe moving. You've got to keep that flow. You've got to keep that rhythm. And all the while being very, very accurate with your hits. Now, you might be able to hear it when he comes on the stage, but our next athlete, Stefan Stark, will be going up against Andreas Strive. And when he comes on stage, the audience should go bananas. And you might be able to hear them in the background there. He has a massive fan club here today. Absolutely fantastic. Personal best for Stefan Stark is a 29.78, so under 30 seconds. If he manages that, he could take over the lead. Andreas Strive, personal best of 28.49. Times have not been all that much faster than personal bests here today. We've had one personal best so far with Christoph Lang, perhaps a good axe choice on his part. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Stefan Stark on the left-hand side of your stage, then Andreas on the right-hand side with the pink side of his shirt. And both of them getting into those blocks with great power drivers right away. You can see the accuracy of Stefan Stark. Andreas Strive still needing to work on that a little bit. You can see some choppy lines there on one side of his block, but otherwise looking pretty clean as he was first over to the other side, about 4.5 strokes ahead of Stefan Stark on the second side of the block. Stefan Stark now coming on with some beautiful power drivers there as he gets deep onto that block, and it looks like he's done well to catch up. Might have actually opted to go deeper, and it looks like he's going to get the time of 37.85. Puts him in fourth place overall right now, and fourth place in the underhand chop results. Strive with a 43.83 brings up the rear of the packs thus far in underhand chop in sixth place.
Both cuts are good.
So sometimes you'll see these guys cut through deeper on the first side before they move over to the other side. This is a tactical situation for some athletes, and what that does is it allows them to not have to cut as much through the second side when they do move over to the other side. Let's take a look, though, here at the start for Stefan Stark and Andreas Strive. Very nice start there. Big power drivers. And you can see both of them nicely in sync. And right there, Andreas Strive, she's got a bit of a choppy left-hand side, but his right side cuts are very accurate. And Stefan Stark on the other side of his block really had a nice final cut there to get through. Needed to do one extra small cut, to make sure he was through right there, just to be safe, to make sure that block is definitely split. Because if he does step down and walk away from the block, and the judges find that there's still a thread of wood holding on, then that would count as a DQ, and you don't want that. Okay, next up we have Peter Bauer and Niels Müller. Peter Bauer on stand 1 on the left-hand side of the stage, and Niels Müller on stand 2 on the right. In these days, you never know whether it should be a fist bump or a handshake, and there's so much confusion with that. Come on, folks, let's just go back to the classic handshakes, which is quite fair. And it looks like Niels Müller, Peter Bauer has a problem with his block and has asked for a different block to be placed in, or at least resecured. I'm not really sure what's happening there. Niels Müller, who you're looking at right there, has just come back to the competition scene after being injured and out for 2021. So we're happy to have him back in the mix and participating once again. You can see those axes polished and sharp as a razor. You don't want to mess around with those things, and you need to be very, very solid. Speaking of that, for those of you who are just joining us, it is the German Pro Championship 2022
Stand to your timber.
here
3,
in Wernigerode in
2,
Harz.
1, go!
Wow, look at that. Niels Müller getting in there with some really quick drivers. Peter Bauer now picking up the pace on his first side. Who's going to be first to switch over? It might be Peter Bauer, and it is Peter Bauer, but he steps down, causes him a little bit of time, and it allows Niels Müller to catch up, and they're both working with quick axes on the second side. We should see fast times for both of these guys. Just passing the 20-second mark here. Oh, a big stick by Peter Bauer, and it's Niels Müller at 25.48. Great time as he moves to the top of the underhand chop results. And Peter Bauer with a 30.69, just behind in second place there, with some very, very quick times there. And man, Niels Müller was very, very excited about that cut. Super stoked, and a 25.48.
Both cuts are good.
All right, taking a look back at the highlight slow-mos here. Both of these guys quick with the axe. Interestingly, it was Niels Müller who started with the faster frequency of drivers, but Peter Bauer picked up the pace. Right here, though, a little step down allowed Niels Müller to catch up and draw even on the second side of the block, and then he just absolutely went to town. Obviously, he's been working and training to make sure his fitness level was right up there, and he steps down with a time of 25:21. Fastest time so far, and that is the time to beat with our final two athletes coming on stage, Marcel Steinkemper and Danny Martin. Look at those times for both of these gentlemen. All right. Just so that you're aware, the German record for underhand chop held by Dirk Braun, 19.44 seconds. The world record for this discipline, 12.39, held by Braden Meyer, and he's held that time since 2015. Dirk Braun's time for the German record has stood since 2007. So will there be some new records taken down today? Based on how the wood is cutting, I don't think so, but you never know. A couple of very, very good athletes on stage right now. And Marcel Steinkemper, right-hand side in the green, and Danny Martin, left-hand side in the black.
3, 2, 1, go!
Marcel Steinkemper, really frequent hits, nice big drivers. Danny Martin, huge chips coming off of his block. Who's going to be over to the other side first? It's going to be Steinkemper, who moves over, putting the pressure on Danny Martin, trying to come through with a nice cut, just passing the 16, 17-second mark. Steinkemper and Martin battling hard to see who will get through first. And it's going to be Steinkemper with a personal best, 22.88. And Danny Martin through with a 26.06, 4 seconds slower. So Steinkemper has just thrown down the gauntlet here today for a fantastic result. He moves to the top of the results in the underhand chop with Danny Martin actually falling into third place just behind Niels Müller's time of 25:21. So Danny Martin with a 26.06 in third place right now. Marcel Steinkemper, the fastest time so far in the personal best with 22.61. And it looks like we are going to hear from Marcel any second now.
Good.
Okay, so Marcel in the lead for the moment. Let's take a look back at how this all played out. So you've got about a pace of 1.5 hits for every single hit of Danny Martin from Marcel Steinkemper. And I think that was the difference maker here, as he was driving hard and quick with that axe. And Danny Martin going for those heavy big drivers on the backside was a little bit slower on the second side. Marcel Steinkemper through with that 22.61 time, and look how happy he is about that. Fantastic result for the young man who's just out of the rookies last year. So underhand chop ranking will also equal the overall standings ranking at the moment, with Marcel Steinkemper in the lead. Niels Müller is sitting in second place, and Danny Martin bringing up the third position on the podium. We're the event to end right now, but there's still a lot of cutting and chopping to go. And before we move on to our next round and our next discipline, we're going to hear from Marcel.
Meisterschaft mal mit einem richtigen Statement eröffnet. Neue persönliche Bestzeit und auch der schnellste von allen 10 Athleten. War das dein Plan heute, Marcel?
Ja, also da ich das in den letzten Wettkämpfen ja auch schon gezeigt habe, dass der Underhand ziemlich gut läuft, war das auf jeden Fall der Plan heute. Aber das Holz war ein bisschen undurchsichtig. Ich wusste nicht genau, was auf mich zukommt, aber es lief echt super. Erste Seite war top vom Block und die zweite lief dann so weiter und ich bin zufrieden.
So short and sweet, he asked if this was the plan to do as fast as he could, and he said, yeah, he wasn't sure what kind of a block he was going to get, but he did. The first side was really good for him, and the second side was couldn't have run any better, so he's happy about that so far.
hungrig bist du, oder?
Hungrig bin ich.
Danke.
So he's hungry. He's definitely hungry, and he just said prior to that he wants to see how he comes into the competition, but it's a nice start for him so far. So good job by Marcel Steinkemper to start this competition off with a top number of points in the underhand chop. He'll take 12 away and add that to his overall totals as we get ready for our next discipline.
Die Schwierigkeit ist halt die lange Distanz. Und dass die Disziplinen so unterschiedliche Herausforderungen haben. Er muss es durch den ganzen Tag bringen. Axt kann er, aber wir müssen schauen, was bei den nächsten Disziplinen ist. Aber er ist dran. Er ist definitiv
das sind seine ersten deutschen Meisterschaften.
All right, so all that wood that you see on stage, folks, that comes from sustainably sourced locations. Let's find out a little bit more about the wood preparation right now.
Vorbereitet wird für diese Wettkämpfe, also der Underhand-Shop, den haben wir ja gerade gesehen und der ist schon ganz besonders. Den muss man tatsächlich entsprechend vorbereiten.
Okay, there we see our stage, almost ready for our next discipline, which is the stock saw. Before we check out the stock saw, though, I do believe as the original extreme sport, we're going to take a little bit of a look back at how this all came to be. Let's check out the history clip of Timber Sports.
Und wollen die euch nicht vorenthalten. Hier ein Rückblick auf die Entwicklung dieses Extremsports.
Expert woodsman who can cut down a tree more easily than most people can chop one up. When it really comes to tackling large lumps, you can't beat the men of the forestry companies. An axeman's gathering.
All right, so our next discipline coming up is the stock saw, and of course the stock saw is that very saw that you and I can buy at your local STIHL dealership. Let's take a look at the tool and discipline for stock saw.
Stock saw. Und was genau ist da zu tun und mit welchem Werkzeug wird hier gearbeitet? Das zeigen wir euch jetzt.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL Timbersports as the ultimate test of operator's skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional STIHL technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark, one downward and one upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks. All right, let's get busy with our stock saw here on our first heat. Niels Müller and Stefan Odwak going up against each other, followed by Stefan Stark, Christoph Lang, Andreas Striever, Stefan Grafmeister, Steinkeeper, Peter Bauer, Thomas Hofbauer, and Danny Martin. Danny Martin, übrigens, by the way, Danny Martin, by the way, holds the German record in stock saw time of 8.63 seconds. He achieved that at the German Ford Ranger Cup just recently this year. But first up, Nils Müller and Stefan Odwarka battling it out for the stock saw. Stefan Odwarka looks concentrated.
Warm up your saw.
And now the gentleman will be able to warm up those saws and leave them running. This is not a cold start contest, so the saws will stay running on those specially designed rubber pads on the floor so that they don't hop away just before the start of the contest here. But you can see the saw is still running.
Stand to
and
your
here we go.
timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Very nice start by Stefan Odwarka. He's got a nice clean cut started there. Nils Müller also looking good. Transition for both of these guys, super clean. And it's going to be Odwarka with a time of 10:51 and Nils Müller with an 11:06. Good times for both of these guys. We'll set our times in the blocks. And now we have our first time to beat, which is a 10:51 from Stefan Odwarka. He had a really nice transition. His first cut was quick. The transition barely swung down at all, and then the upcut was super clean by Stefan. So very well done.
Both cuts are good.
So the times will count. Stefan Odwarka first in the stock saw. You can see on the orange field there with the white number, that is their now current overall ranking, just for future reference. So here's the start. Watch how quick Odwarka is up on that first cut, and he's got a beautiful thin first cookie. Hardly any transition swing at all by both of the guys, and actually Nils Müller was a little bit faster in his upcut than he was in the first down cut. So that was a nice comeback for Nils Müller, but Stefan Odwarka just a hair faster, and the difference between them, 57 hundredths of a second. So that is a good battle between two warriors. Speaking of warriors, there's Stefan Stark one more time, getting ready to go, this time up against a man that is about 12, 15, 20 years younger than him in Christoph Lang. Stefan Stark with a lot of experience with the motor saw in hand. Let's see if he can pull off a very nice cut here. Both of them have really good personal bests, though, a 951 to a 977. So I noticed that Stefan Stark threw away that rubber pad, and I have to wonder if he's opting not to use the rubber pad. It's not necessary to use it, but it is there to make the life easier on the athletes for grabbing that saw and making sure it's not somewhere else as planned. You can see when that motor is really being engaged and revved, how much it hops around on the floor there. Yeah, interesting, though, that Stefan Stark is opting to go without the pad on the ground.
3, 2, 1, go!
He obviously feels good about it. No problems for him. Oh, he's got a beautiful thin first cookie. That's looking like a fantastic first cut for Stefan Stark. Christoph Lang, also a great upcut for him. 10:51 against a 10:50 or 11:56. Stefan Stark with a great cut, and Christoph Lang also with a very nice cut there. But that first cookie for Stefan Stark was paper thin. Absolutely thin to win is the way you want to go. And, man, did he ever have that lined up.
Both cuts are good.
All right, so it's official. Stefan Odwarka still up on top with a 10:35 fast time. But Christoph Lang slips into second place with a 10:42. Nils Müller holding on to third place now with a 10:92, and Stefan Stark with an 11:37 as we take a look back at that first cut. Man, was that ever close to being a cutout by Stefan Stark. That was a super, super thin cookie. Christoph Lang opting for a bit of a thicker one, and on the upcut right here, beautiful flow right there by Stefan Stark. Fantastic. But he obviously wasn't too pleased with his final cut. Christoph Lang using absolute control on that upcut. Looked pretty pleased about it at the end. And we move on to our next heat in stock saw, and that is Andreas Strive up against Stefan Graf. And you can see these personal bests by almost all of these German athletes are in and around or lower than the 10-second mark. So that says a lot about the general skill level and ability with this stock saw. And it's not about your strength or your power here or your endurance. It's about recognizing the saw itself and really realizing when you're pulling or pushing too hard to listen to that motor. Does it bog down? Does it sound like it's cutting out? Do you need to apply a little bit more throttle? Do you need to cut off on the throttle a little bit? How much pressure do you put on that arm so that the blade cuts clean and fast but doesn't stall with too much pressure?
STIHL, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Very good start by both of these guys. Pretty even. Graf was quick to the saw. Very nice transition by Strive. Graf pulling hard. He's going to have the faster of the two times with a 10.63 to an 11.17. So Stefan Graf slips into third place. Andreas Strive pushes Stefan Stark down into 6th, and Andreas Strive has 5th place at the moment.
Both cuts are good.
Okay, so Stefan Graf sitting in 4th place. Overall 3rd in stock saw at the moment. Stefan Odwarka at the moment still holding on to the top spot with 12 seconds. Or 12 points in a 10.35 seconds. Christoph Lang with a 10.42. And Stefan Graf there with a 10.54. So our top 4 times are just a hair over 10 seconds. And the bottom 2 times are just a hair over 11 seconds. So you can see how close these guys really are to each other. And here you can see on that upcut. And just losing the tip of the saw ever so slightly inside the block. But it didn't seem to make a difference. And now Marcel Steinkemper will be going up against Peter Bauer. Advantage Bauer here with a personal best 9.30. Steinkemper, you have to know, though, he's been working with Danny Martin on these stock saws to make sure that he's really up to snuff. And Danny Martin, being the national record holder, will definitely have some words of encouragement and some small skills that he can pass on to Marcel as he develops in his STIHL Timbersports career. Quick guideline markers there by Marcel Steinkemper. On the other side of the stage, Peter Bauer gets his saw set. So many practiced routines here. So many position changes to make sure that they've got absolutely the exact position they want to have their equipment in. They know this very, very well as pros.
Warm up your saw. STIHL, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, very good start by Peter Bauer. Steinkemper, a little bit of a bobble at the top, but he's quick through the cut. Does he get a good transition to the bottom? Power definitely does have this one down with a 10.88. Steinkemper a bit slow on this cut with a 12.57, and he had a problem off the start, and hopefully we'll see that on the replay. He hopped a little bit, tried to find the line, and he came very close to the line on the upcut. Hopefully it's going to count for him. Nobody wants to see a DQ in this case. Let's find out.
Okay, both cuts are good.
Okay, luckily Marcel Steinkemper did not cut over the line, so his cut is fair, but it's a bit slow, and that puts him at, let's see where he sits in the stock saw right now, 5th place. No, excuse me, he's dead last with a 12 and change. So, yeah, see, there's the little hop right there, and that's a beautiful transition from Peter Bauer. Absolutely fantastic, barely any swing at all. That's amazing control of the saw, not his fastest time, but he is right there in the mix. All right, next up, Thomas Hofbauer going up against Danny Martin. Once again, Danny Martin's personal best is also the national record for Germany. So Thomas Hofbauer, Danny Martin coming onto the stage now. So right now, after that cut from Marcel Steinkemper, he is not going to be happy with that. He's sitting dead last with over 12 seconds of a cut because of a bit of a bobble at the top of his cut. Hopefully he can come back in the next disciplines, the standing block.
Warm up your saw.
Okay, so here we go, starting up those saws to get them revving and roaring. And again, Thomas Hofbauer going up against Danny Martin.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Ooh, a bit of a slip by Danny Martin, and it was Hofbauer who got up there faster. But Danny Martin with a great transition on the upcut is looking good for him. He's not going to have a personal best, but he'll have a solid time. 4th place in stock saw with a 10.62. Hofbauer with an 11.68. So 11.68 will put Hofbauer in 5th or 6th place. And Danny Martin, 4th place in stock saw. And the cuts are good, so it is official. And that puts Danny Martin in the lead in the overall standings. Taking a look here, that was a very slow start for Danny Martin. He was well behind on the start compared to Thomas Hofbauer, but he was just a little bit quicker through the cut. If you look here, Hofbauer steps forward and his cookie drops after Danny Martin's does, but he's got a beautiful second cookie on the transition to the upcut. It was very, very nice. Second cookie was clean and small, and thin, I should say. Danny Martin's was a little bit thicker, so he had to work a little bit harder to get through there, but he's got the faster time of the two. So Marcel Steinkemper with 12.46 at the bottom of the list. Thomas Hofbauer with an 11.54. Second to last there. Danny Martin slips into 3rd place in the stock saw results with Odvarka's time not being beaten today. The 10.35 holds on for the number 1 time. Let's take a look how that's going to change the overall standings here. So in the overall standings, Danny Martin moves into the top spot with 20 points, just 1 point ahead of Christoph Lang, who's in second. Nils Müller with 18, tied with Stefan Odvarka. Peter Bauer 17, Stefan Graf 16. Marcel Steinkemper, by virtue of being dead last in that last discipline, has 15 points now, so he really needs to pick up the pace when we move on to our next discipline and the final discipline in round 1, and that is the standing block chop.
Tendenz hier mit sich bringt, was wir bisher gesehen haben.
So now a lot of you may be asking, you know, where is all this wood coming from, and you know, what if one guy's got a block that's bigger than the other guy's block, and how this all works? Well, the wood that's used here for the competition is all actually sustainably grown and harvested and fairly prepared before the actual competition. So what you're seeing on stage there is wood that is as close as possible to being the exact same size for each athlete in each of the various disciplines, whether it be the underhand chop, the stock saw, the standing block, the single buck, or the springboard. So let's take a look at our competition wood.
Ach, nein, Entschuldigung. Ja, wir schauen uns was ganz anderes an. Wir schauen uns den Holzclip an. Entschuldigung, da waren wir im Ablauf jetzt verkehrt.
STIHL Timbersports is an international extreme sports competition series featuring 6 disciplines, 3 chopping and 3 sawing. We have a premier competition, we need premier wood. The biggest challenges that I face as part of my role is to ensure that our competitions are supplied with the highest quality wood.
Each individual tree is examined for its conformation before processing. We need to make it fair for all athletes. So we are selecting different sections of the trees to use for each of our specific disciplines.
Once the trees are felled, extracted and transported to our facilities, we measure, mark and then cut the wood into sized blocks. We then peel the blocks ready for competition. After careful selection, the blocks then leave our yard and are distributed internationally to our STIHL Timbersports competitions.
Ja, es ist tatsächlich eine eigene Welt, in der man sich hier bewegt, wenn man bei STIHL Timbersports auch mal hinter die Kulissen guckt. Und natürlich fragen sich auch immer wieder ganz viele, was passiert denn eigentlich mit diesem Holz, wenn die Wettkämpfe vorbei sind und wie nah.
So as you saw, this wood is all prepared in such a specific way that each of these athletes has absolutely fair wood, but it's also sustainably grown and harvested, and nothing is wasted. So here you go, a little bit of information about that.
We at STIHL Timbersports pride ourselves that all wood is sustainably grown, harvested, and recycled to minimize the overall amount of wood processed. Firstly, this poplar wood is grown on certified plantations. Secondly, the white pine for our sawing disciplines is only sourced from certified forest management. After all our STIHL competitions, all the spent wood is collected and recycled right down to the wood chips and sawdust, which, for example, is converted into renewable energy in the form of wood pellets for biomass. We quest to find certified partners. This ensures that all newly planted trees are nurtured and managed, promoting maximum efficiency and sustainability for the future conservation of our valuable forests.
Therefore, as you can see, with good harvesting practices and good management with silviculture, the ground is quickly replaced by new trees, or could even be used for arable for farmers and future rotations.
Okay, so the wood situation is clarified. The wood is on stage, and it is fair wood for each of these athletes. Before we move on to our final discipline in round 1, the standing block chop, let's find out a little bit more about the coming discipline.
Es geht den Standing Block Chop, also im Prinzip geht es das ganz normale Holzfällen. Aber es geht am Ende eigentlich darum, das ja, möglichst schnell zu machen. Denn nicht darum, jetzt hier den Baum möglichst exakt zu fällen. Da gibt es ja Waldarbeitsmeisterschaften. Da ist es wirklich ganz entscheidend, ganz spannend. Da werden die Bäume so gefällt, dass sie einen entsprechenden Holzblock treffen. Darum geht es hier nicht. Hier geht es ausnahmslos um Geschwindigkeit.
Ausnahmslos um Geschwindigkeit. Und deshalb ist es halt auch wichtig, dass für alle Athleten der Block so identisch wie möglich ist. Also wir haben ja gerade die Entstehung dieser Blocks gesehen und man versucht tatsächlich auf den Farmen die gleichen Blocks sozusagen zu nehmen und dann an den Wettkampf zu bringen, damit die ja sehr, sehr ähnlich sind. Und da wird sehr darauf geachtet.
Ja, und hier zeigen wir euch das nochmal in Bildern, was jetzt auf der Bühne passieren wird.
Standing block chop. At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 30 centimeters has to be cut through both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result. Standing block chop up next. Stark and Lang going up against each other. Stefan Stark, Christoph Lang. Personal best for both of these guys here. Give you in just a second in the standing block chop. Our first athletes getting ready to go. As I said before, Danny Martin at the top of the leaderboard with 20 points. So here's an opportunity for him to open up that a bit more. But there's an opportunity here for Marcel Steinkemper to do well. He's solid in this discipline. Let's see if he can pull it together. In the meantime, Stefan Stark and Christoph Lang will be our first two athletes. And there you can see their times, 27:04 compared to a 29:06 personal best. So after this discipline, we will be cutting out two of the bottom athletes. So a lot of pressure on the guys to try and get into the top 8 here. Stefan Stark, Christoph Lang battling out. First drivers from the bottom and then switching to the top and getting some nice chips out for both of these guys. Looking good at the start for Lang and Stark. And Stefan Stark moves over to the other side of his block, about 2 strokes ahead of Christoph Lang. Man, he is still so strong at 57 years of age. Can only hope to be as fit as he is when I turn that age. Unbelievable power from him. Great precision. Christoph Lang getting in there. Oh my God, how close was that? 34-41, 34-35. Those tops blocked off at about the same time. What a fantastic finish for Stefan Stark and Christoph Lang. Absolutely amazing. Those final drivers were in sync, and the block came off picture perfect with each other. That's photo finish right there, folks. They're going to need the photo finish for this one as well. Unbelievable.
Both cuts are good.
34-11, 33-99. How close is that? That is just incredible. 12 hundredths of a second separating those two guys on stage right now. Fantastic results. So what a way to get into our final discipline. Now look at this here, the power and the precision from Stefan Stark. And right here, these next blows, timing, look at this. Wow, how close was that? It was like 1/4 of an axe swing that Stefan Stark was behind Christoph Lang. 12 hundredths of a second difference between these two guys. What an amazing finish. So 33.99 is the time to beat right now, and we get ready for heat number 2 with Nils Müller and Thomas Hofbauer. Nice to see Nils Müller back in the mix here, competing again after coming back from injury in 2021. And as we saw in the underhand chop, he is excited to be here and looking very strong. Chopping disciplines are definitely his forte, but he's up against a man in Thomas Hofbauer, who's got a pretty solid personal best time. You can see those practice drivers from down, bringing that axe from more or less floor level for those first hits up. The first hits have to be up based on the rules.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And here we go. Both these guys in sync with each other. Nils Müller picking up the pace a little bit. Thomas Hofbauer, some nice chips coming off of that block as he's slabbing out nicely. He's already shaking the top of that block. He is not liking this block as he moves over to the other side. Hofbauer is on the other side, about 4 strokes ahead of Nils Müller. As Nils Müller moves over to the other side of his block now, throwing in some power drivers here. Is he going to catch up with Hofbauer, or is Hofbauer going to do this one ahead of Nils Müller? Let's see how close it is. It's Hofbauer with a 28.59. Nils Müller thought he had it, and then it looked like he stepped back or slipped on a chip that's on the ground, then finally gets into 36.52. I don't know what happened there, but it looks like he might have slipped slightly on a chip on the ground and had to reset himself and make sure that he was safe to continue cutting. So Nils Müller with a surprising 36.17. I imagine that he would be much better in this discipline. That he's off pace by 7.86 seconds. And Thomas Hofbauer with the new best time of 28.31 and a personal best for him as well. So congratulations for that. And he takes over the lead in the standing block chop. So great standing block chop there by Thomas Hofbauer. Gets himself a personal best with 28.31. For the moment has the 12 points in his pocket, but still quite a few athletes to go with 3 more heats. I'm trying to see here in the slow-mos if there's an opportunity to find out what it was that happened there with Nils Müller on the second side of his block, if he slipped a little bit, but it doesn't look like we're going to get to see that. And now Stefan Graf going up against Stefan Odvarka. Stefan Graf was hanging out by the stage here at our broadcast point yesterday, watching all the action from the newcomers and the women, and really supportive of all the athletes that were on stage. So love the attitude by all of our Timber Sports athletes. It really is a family here as they support each other and help each other become better in the sport that they all love and participate in. So Stefan Graf, Stefan Odvarka coming up on stage right now.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, getting into it right away. Odvarka has yet to chip out anything here, surprisingly. Stefan Graf, haven't got a picture of him so far. Really stepping off that back foot. Odvarka, Stefan Graf is already on the other side of his block. Odvarka, I'm going to say, is probably a good 6 or 7 drivers behind Graf, as Graf is getting close to cutting the top of that block off. 2 more drivers should do it. No, just 1. And that's a 30.54 for Stefan Graf. Odvarka struggling on the second side here, looking for a final huge driver, trying to put it out into left field. Finally does it in a 41.26. So Stefan Graf with a 35.4 moves into second place. Odvarka with a 41.26 has the bottom of the pile at the moment.
Both cuts are good.
All right, and you see the stage crew getting on there really quickly to clean up and reset the blocks for the next heat. Always got to say big congratulations and props out to them and thank yous for all the hard work they do in making sure this stage gets set up and making sure that the stage is ready for our athletes each and every time they come out to compete. With Dwarka, there you see Graf already on the second side while our Dwarka was still working on his first side. And you can see how accurate his drivers are, right on point. They're barely ridging at all. That's how close he is to each of those final cuts. And accuracy equals efficiency equals speed. And for him, it wasn't a great time, but it was a good time and good enough to be in second place at the moment. So right now, Marcel Steinkemper and Andreas Strive, who have yet to compete in standing block chop, are coming out right now to have their heat. They're sitting in the last two positions that are available. So they're actually outside of moving on to the next round right now. But like I said, they have yet to compete. So Steinkemper and Strive on stage now will do their best to get some good points here. Now Steinkemper is incredibly strong in this discipline. We should see a very good time for him in this discipline of standing block chop. He's got core power. He's a big man with a lot of skill, and his skill level has only gone from strength to strength as he's moved from the rookies to the pros.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And this will be the first German championship for Marcel Steinkemper as a pro. So there's a lot of pressure on him, but look at how accurate Strive's drivers are, just on point, so precise there. And both he and Steinkemper move over to the other side of their blocks pretty much at the same time. Strive's accuracy, though, is really on point. Steinkemper putting some power into it on the second side, seems to be improving, coming close to finishing it here. Is he going to have a good time? Boy, does he ever. That thing hopped off the top as Steinkemper finishes it off with a 29.81. And it's threads holding on for Strive as he struggled to get that done and finally drops the block off at a time of 42.94. Great job by Marcel Steinkemper, though, to get that block done in 29.81. That pushes him into second place in the standing block chop results. And right now, he is safe to move on to the next round.
Okay, both cuts are good.
All right, so both cuts are good with one more heat to come with Danny Martin and Peter Bauer. But I really want to look back at this heat between Strive and Steinkemper. I expected a little bit more out of Steinkemper on this one, but he did what he needed to do. You could see coming from way deep down on those uphill drivers. And then Strive, his accuracy was so nice here. Surprised that he was as slow as he was on the second side. And it looks like it was getting close for Strive, trying to just put in those super power drivers, but his accuracy so good. It was just a little bit of trouble, a little bit slower on the second side. And there, Steinkemper absolutely killing that block with that final driver. So much power in that young man. And there you can see just a little thread hanging onto that block. And Strive finally does it, but those extra hits just cost extra time. All right, Danny Martin up against Peter Bauer here. Both of them have really, really close times together here, 22.51 to 22.96 between these two guys, so a close battle. But as we've seen, some of our best times on the standing block chop have not been coming to fruition, as maybe we have a little bit wet wood here, don't know. They're not chopping as quickly as expected, but between these two guys on stage right now, it's anybody's guess who is going to win the battle of the bulge.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
You can hear the audience already screaming Danny's name, trying to get him into it. Peter Bauer's got his own fan club in the house as well. Look at this. Great job by Peter Bauer, chipping out some massive pieces. Danny Martin moving over to the other side of his block now. It's looking good for Danny. He's got a big slab that came off. That's only going to do him well. Some big pieces coming and flying away from Danny Martin's block, though. He's not going to get his best time, but is he going to get a time that's good enough to get him into the top notch? He is not. Danny Martin just ahead of Marcel Steinkemper, though, and it is Peter Bauer with a 32.20 slipping into 5th place. So right now, Thomas Hofbauer's time of 28.31 not beaten. Danny Martin with a 28.53 sitting in 2nd place. That's not adjusted, though, so it may well adjust to a faster time, but we'll see. But at the moment, Danny Martin in 2nd place in standing block chop with Marcel Steinkemper in 3rd in standing block. We'll take a look at the results of the discipline and the overall results and who will be moving on to the next round. So 28.32 for Danny Martin, just 1/100th or 1/10th of a second, 100th of a second slower than Thomas Hofbauer. That's how close this is right now. So let's take a look at this again. Great start for both of these guys. Danny Martin, 2 drivers from down. Thomas Peter Bauer. That's Danny once again. Super accurate drivers, big angle on the lower cuts. Peter Bauer really getting some big slabs coming out of there, some nice chips. And watch this from Danny Martin. 2 drivers down below. Nice slab comes off. Less material for him to cut through at the top now, but his accuracy is also very good. That comes from a lot of experience in cutting and super, super precise hits there, but the power is also in the mix. And there goes that last driver for Danny Martin with a 28.32 after adjustment, so great job. So let's take a look at the standing block chop results. Thomas Hofbauer, the time to beat, stayed the time to beat with his personal best. Danny Martin, then Marcel Steinkemper, Stefan Graf, Peter Bauer, Christoph Lang, Stefan Stark, Nils Müller, and Stefan Odwarka, followed up by Andreas Strieve. Now, in the overall standings, that's going to change things around a little bit here. Let's see how this makes things look. So, Danny Martin is at the top with 31 points. Christoph Lang, 5 points back from him. Marcel Steinkemper, 6 points back from the top spot. Peter Bauer, 6 points back. And Stefan Graf, 6 points back. And we will only take the top 8 athletes into the next round. So that means, unfortunately, for the fan base out there, for Stefan Stark and Andreas Strieve, both of those guys will be eliminated from action today, and we will not see them compete in the single buck and the next round. So Marcel Steinkemper did manage to get himself back into the mix from not so good showing in the stock saw, and now we will see him competing with the rest as they move on to the next round. Round number 2, which will include the single buck without assistance, so nobody helping them on stage, and the springboard with 2 boards. That is a very finicky discipline, and you've got to have everything working exactly right in the springboard. So round 2 will have Thomas Hofbauer, Stefan Odwarka, Nils Müller, Stefan Graf, Peter Bauer, Marcel Steinkemper, Christoph Lang, and of course Danny Martin.
In diese verschiedenen Wettkämpfe schauen, und zwar haben wir einen WM-Teaser, sobald dieser Regieplan denn noch stimmt. Wir wollen also mal schauen.
All right, so the big deal here for today for our Germans is which athlete will make it to the individual world championships coming up at the end of October on the 28th and 29th. Let's take a look at what that's all about. Tickets still available for that in Gothenburg, Sweden on the 28th and 29th. You can make a weekend of it. Come up a few days earlier, enjoy the beautiful city of Gothenburg and the nature that surrounds it, and then join us for the individual and team world championships at the end of October. So taking a look at the European ranking, these are some of the athletes that we will see going over to compete in Sweden. Emil Johansson, of course, having won the Nordic Championships, is going to be representing Sweden no matter what. He'll be there. Armin Kugler, Pierre-Puy Barret, so Armin Kugler from Austria, Pierre-Puy Barret, Arkadia Strozdek from Poland, Michel Delpine from Italy, Glenn Pendlington, fantastic showing at the British Championships, will be also representing, and Verbjørn Sonsteby from Denmark will be in the mix there as well. So, but there is still one more event to go before the European rankings are finalized, and that is the Swiss Championship. So there's 8 athletes in the European ranking that will be in the mix in the World Championship. So there could still be some small changes that happen after the Swiss Championships, as we have yet to have a Swiss athlete listed there. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, looks like we're more or less ready for our next discipline, which is the single buck without assistance. And let's take a look at what that discipline is all about.
Ich habe es gestern probiert und hab heute noch Rücken.
Hüftschaden.
Ja, Hüftschaden. Boah, ist das schwer. Ist das schwer.
Um die Ein-Mann-Handzugsäge, die sogenannte Single Buck. Und was genau sich dahinter verbirgt, hat Guido gestern am eigenen Leib erfahren und zeigen wir euch in den nächsten Bildern.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos, and its base price starts at around 1,500 euros. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc of a 46-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success. So the single buck is coming up next in round number 2, the first discipline of our second round. We have 8 athletes remaining in the competition in 4 heats, and then we will whittle it down between the next 2 disciplines to the 6 remaining athletes who will compete in the hot saw to finish off our day. So the single buck, well, this is a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. If you're like me and you're not so keen on it, yeah, then it's a battle. But I'll tell you what, it is a real beast to move that saw back and forth through the block, even if it is a bit of a smaller block. And you can see the times here, 21.97, 17.01 going through this 36-centimeter block. I believe it's 36 centimeters. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And we will see these guys go at it. They have to cut 1 cookie off the block. And here it's about getting through there with rhythm and flow. So, as I said, our first heat, Thomas Hofbauer going up against Stefan Odvarka. The saws are set. They will reposition them fairly to make sure that they are in exactly the right position for that first drawback. And then it's about trying to get that saw moving and keep it moving as efficiently and quickly as possible. You can see those very aggressive teeth The smallest angle change will stop that saw mid-stroke, and if that happens, man, it is a beast to keep moving, which is the reason why so many call it the misery whip. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Stefan Odwaka with a really nice start. Very, very quick quick strokes. And then he gets into a nice flow. Thomas Hofbauer started off with nice long strokes right away, going tip to knuckles, but Odwaka looks like he's a bit cleaner on the overall cut here. Oh my goodness, but it's a great come from behind by Thomas Hofbauer, and that's his second personal best of the day. He got it in standing block chop, and he's got it in the single buck. Great job by Thomas Hofbauer with some big improvements in his level in the last couple of disciplines. Great job. Stefan Odwaka with a 19.22 in second place for the moment in single buck.
Both cuts are good.
All right, Thomas Hofbauer with an 18.31 personal best. Great job by him. Let's take a look at the start here. Leans back into that first drawback, and then a couple of just one quick rounding cut, and then he started with the long flowy cuts. There you see Odwaka also with those really long efficient cuts. It was just at the bottom that Hofbauer was a slight bit faster, and he got himself the fastest time so far in a personal best. Good job. He's happy about that. Odwaka, not bad. He had very efficient cuts there, and you can see you going knuckles to the tip disappearing into that block. Very good job by Odwaka as well. Okay, coming up next, Niels Müller going up against Stefan Graf, and Niels Müller so far has got the fastest personal best time, 14.34, up against Stefan Graf's personal best of 17.92. By the way, the single buck without assistant fastest time belongs to Danny Martin. He got that at the Ford Transit Cup in 2022 this year of a 12.42. The world record is Pierre Puy-Barré with an 11.58. So not much difference between those two records. These guys will be aiming for Danny Martin's record at the moment, though. Let's see if anybody can crack it or if anybody will get there today. Stefan Graf precisely eyeing his lineup, making sure that saw is perfectly set. Schul Janssen with the metal guide in his hand there, just to check the depth of that first cut, make sure that it is fair, and they will set that metal guide in place. Gives them the nod, so Stefan Graf can reset that saw to the position that he likes to have it in for that first pull. On the other side, Dr. Jörg Kurzenberger doing the same thing with Niels Müller, and our second heat will be ready to go shortly. You can see the stand position of Stefan Graf. Niels Müller, similar
Stand
in his
to
positioning
your
for the
timber.
start.
3, 2, 1, go!
Now right away, these guys are in sync with each other with their first few strokes, but it is Niels Müller who looks like he's got the more efficient cut going knuckles to tip. Both of them are actually. Stefan Graf looking very good here in the second part of his cut as he gets down through the bottom. Oh, Niels Müller with a 15.62 single buck. That's a great job. That's first place in single buck and first place in the overall standings at the moment. Good job by Niels Müller to get himself a really nice cut there. Stefan Graf with a time of 21.05. I don't know what happened there in the latter part of his cut. He slowed down a little bit. He started off beautifully with nice long cuts. Very efficient, tip to knuckles, but something happened. He got a little bit tired perhaps in the second half of his cut. They're breathing heavy, both of them.
right, both cuts are good.
So Niels Müller with a 15.30, the time to beat now. He's got first place in the single buck and first place overall, as you can see from those two colored fields in orange and white. And let's take a look back here at the start for both of these guys. Niels Müller barely a hop, couple of quick strokes on the top part of the saw, and then gets right into those long strokes. Stefan Graf going into it right away with the long strokes. Really efficient cuts there. You can see he's guiding it well, using that back foot to push off, using his core power. But it was Niels just getting really deep into it. He was angry with that saw and with that block at the same time. And he had a beautiful final drawback to cut that thing clear off. He's got a fair cookie. Stefan Graf here at the bottom of his cut. It looked like he was really going right to the bolts and got a little bit slower at the end. And did it break off? And did he need to go back and cut something else off? No, it didn't look like it. But man, oh man. Just it was a rough second half of the cut for him. And now we move on to our second heat with Peter Bauer going up against Marcel Steinkemper. Also a very close personal best here for these two guys. Could it be that Steinkemper has put in the time to make sure that he has got this one on lockdown? He needs to have a good time here if he wants to be in the mix in the hot saw. But this is his first major competition as a pro, his first German championships as a pro. Peter Bauer setting his saw in place. Marcel, the future of STIHL Timbersports for Germany, along with Danny Martin. These two guys are touted to be the gentleman to take it to the next level on the international field. And for sure, we'll see them both competing for the German team at the team competition in Gothenburg, Sweden. Here we go.
Stand
with
to your
single
timber.
buck.
3,
Peter Bauer,
2,
Marcel Steinkemper.
1, go!
Wow, Steinkemper right into it with fast strokes. Peter Bauer doing exactly the same thing, though. Steinkemper really hammering away at it, though. He wants this badly. Peter Bauer not letting him have anything really easily. Peter Bauer with a great time with a 14.04, and Steinkemper with a 16.39. So Steinkemper slips into third place. Peter Bauer with the top time. Niels Müller sitting in second place with his 15.30. That was quite the battle there. Peter Bauer coming on strong in the second half of his cut. Steinkemper starting strong, but just had a little bit of a slower second cut. But nevertheless, great times for both of these guys. That puts them in good stead at the moment. Steinkemper sitting in third place in single buck results, and Peter Bauer has taken over the top spot and adjusted the time now. It is 13.68 for Peter Bauer. Great job.
All right, both cuts are good.
And Peter Bauer enjoying himself out there as he did a little fist pump for his fans in the audience there. Marcel Steinkemper, he's got his own club in the group along with Danny Martin. Danny Martin's fan club right front row and center. And here we see Steinkemper in the background really getting deep in those heavy pushes on the draws and just really great here off the start. And then he got into those long flowy cuts, really putting all of his effort into it. And there, Peter Bauer's final cut on the drawback. Ooh, a little break off there, which could have been scary, but he got a clean cut at the end, and he felt good about that one. And in the end, his time, a little bit of a hook up there. Oh, and he actually caught his protective sleeve with the tip of the saw and drew it back towards his feet. So something happened where he went a bit too deep with the tip of the saw, and that's what caused Marcel Steinkemper to be a little bit slower in the last couple of strokes there. All right, so Christoph Lang going up against Danny Martin. Danny Martin currently holding the national record, and that's his personal best, coincidentally. Christoph Lang getting ready. Looks like a KBT saw coming out of Australia. Many of the athletes using those saws. right, Danny Martin, Christoph Long getting ready here. Christoph Long, a couple of test moves just to clear out any little bits of chip or dust or grime from the set cuts. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, Christoph Long looking really good here. Danny Martin going for those long, heavy strokes. Christoph Long, Danny Martin's already more than halfway through his block. This is going to be a good time for him as well. Danny Martin, a 14.45, a little bit slower than Peter Bauer. And Christoph Long with a 15.19. That puts him in third place, pushes Steinkemper down to fifth, Niels Müller to fourth, Danny Martin in second. Peter Bauer still with the fastest time of the day with a 13.68, and that's all she wrote for Singlebuck. We'll take a look at the standings here in a second, but that was a nice run from Danny Martin. He came close, but wasn't quite there for his personal best. But still, a very good time of 14.19 after adjustment, and that puts him in second place in Singlebuck.
All right, both cuts are good.
All right, so there you go. 14.19 to a 14.95 for Christoph Lang, and that puts him in third place. Niels Müller fourth. As I said, Marcel Steinkemper gets pushed down to fifth place. Thomas Hofbauer, Stefan Odwarka, and then Stefan Graf. Look at that. Just the absolute power from both of these guys, but also the flow and the precision of their cuts and the amount of material they're sweeping and cutting away there. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, right there. Beautiful final cut. All right, Singlebuck results are in. Peter Bauer at the top with that fantastic 68 time. Danny Martin second, Christoph Lang, Niels Müller. Marcel Steinkemper got pushed down a little bit in the rankings there. Thomas Hofbauer, Stefan Odwarka, and Stefan Graf. Marcel Steinkemper take 8 points over, and that means he'll have fourth place locked down at the moment in the overall standings. Danny Martin extends his lead to 45 points overall. Peter Bauer just 4 points back, and then another couple of points is Christoph Lang. 33 points total for Steinkemper at the moment. So now Steinkemper has his work cut out for him in our next discipline, which is the springboard.
Richtig viel passieren und ich bin sehr, sehr gespannt, wer hier am Ende auch die Nerven behält. Denn darauf kommt es an. Wir haben es eben 2-3 Mal thematisiert. Es geht um die Fokussierung. Es geht darum, eben gerade in einer solchen Disziplin,
all right, so
zu viel Aggressivität
we've seen our heats up to this point. We're getting into the final discipline of round 2. That is the springboard with 2 boards. More about that a little bit later on. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at a couple of clips here about what's expected.
Hast du irgendeine Idee?
Ja, natürlich hat der Danny eine gute Ausgangsposition, aber es ist auch nicht leicht. Also wenn du das von vorne machst, da kann natürlich auch der Gedanke kommen, okay, ich muss jetzt ein Stück weit auch verwalten, meine Führung verwalten, die ist dünn, 4 Punkte. Und dann geht es ganz schnell. Also am Springboard ein Pocket, das nicht hält, wo du im Prinzip abrutscht und schon bist du von vielleicht 2 oder 1 ganz weit hinten im Ranking. Du musst voll konzentriert bleiben weiter, darfst dir keinen Fehler erlauben hier.
Und das haben wir gestern hier erlebt, denn wir hatten einen sehr, sehr spannenden Wettkampf bei den Damen und da lag eine in Führung nach der ersten Disziplin, die am Ende dann aber doch nicht die deutsche Meisterin geworden ist. Das war Nina Pokolski, die es gestern geschafft hat, und bei den Nachwuchsathleten war es Danny Vielwert, der den Titel abgeräumt hat. Und wir schauen nochmal auf die schönsten Bilder des gestrigen Tages, die sind allemal spektakulär genug, um sie nochmal Revue passieren zu lassen. Bilder, die sich hier gestern auf dieser Bühne in der
All right, just a quick review of yesterday's action for the newcomers and our women, the rookies and intermediates and the women. And right now it looks like they've got Tim Anthofer with them in the studio.
glaube ich, hier noch das Mikrofon anstellen. Warte mal, so ist es ja. Tim, wie fällt dein Resümee aus mit so knapp 24 Stunden Abstand zu dem gestrigen Wettkampf? Doch, es ist an.
Es war an.
So, also es scheint doch aus zu sein. So, jetzt versuchen wir es nochmal.
Vierter Platz ist immer ein bisschen gemein, aber ja, man weiß, man sieht die Fehler, aus denen man lernen muss.
So he says that fourth place is a little bit mean, but you know, you learn from these experiences and you move on and you try and train and improve and get better.
Also es ist für dich eine Motivation. Du sagst, okay, knapp vorbei und jetzt geht es aber umso mehr mit Feuer in die Trainingssessions.
It's motivation to prove you forward, yeah?
Sollte auf jeden Fall schon drin sein und der Anreiz ist
Yeah, definitely I want to stay in it and stay in the mix and learn from the mistakes that I made and try and improve. It's of course bothering me, but that's the way it goes.
Wie das abgelaufen ist, die sollte jetzt kommen. Wollen wir mal schauen, ob wir das nochmal haben. Also liegt doch nicht vor, höre ich gerade. Alles klar, Tim. Ja, aber es gibt eine positive Nachricht. Du bist für den Nations Cup nominiert worden, also für einen internationalen Wettbewerb. Wie viel Stolz ist da in deiner Brust, dass da...
So Tim's going to be, or was nominated for the Nations Cup. He'll compete for Germany in the Nations Cup.
Sehr, sehr groß. Es ist natürlich auch nochmal mehr Druck eben aufgebaut, weil man dann nicht nur für sich selber kämpft, sondern eben für das ganze Team.
Yeah, it was huge with a lot of more pressure put on because he's not just competing for himself, but also for the team.
Zwei-dreimal trainieren kann, bevor es dann losgeht, weil es ja schon nächste Woche.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get a little more practice in 2-3 times in the week before the actual contest time.
Dann gemeinsam bei diesem European Nations Cup antreten und wir schauen uns mal an, was sich genau hinter diesem Wettbewerb verbirgt.
A very warm welcome to the European Nations Cup. This is a very, very special event. Rumor has it, I'm a savage, drop the classic, thinking back.
Ziel ist immer Treppchenplatz, egal welchen Wettkampf man macht. Team 4 ins Goal is always the gold medal.
Okay, dann fehlt der Ton. Ja, diese europäischen, diese internationalen Wettbewerbe, du warst ja auch schon ganz oft mit dabei. Guido, erzähl mal, was ist
Big dreams, I got big dreams since like baby. I've been joining forces with the likes of an AG.
Wir müssen natürlich jeder seine Leistung für sich bringen. Gewertet wird es als Team. Also müssen wir als Team stark sein. Ich denke, das sind wir ganz gut.
All of my struggles became lessons well learned. I got desires that keep me grounded, that's for sure. Cause one day we gon' make it out this earth. Where's your worth?
I'm sick of your talking, you got the wrong one. I'm taking your king and I leave him broken. If I am in second, it's after no one. Just give me a second to let them know. I'm the headline, the deadline. I'm ahead time, the red kind. I'm a living legend, lethal weapon, mastermind. Big time.
Steigern, orientiert sich da natürlich auch dran. Und das sind erstmal die nationalen Gegner. Und dann will man natürlich auf internationaler Ebene besser werden und Medaillen irgendwann holen. Und das ist natürlich auch dein Ziel.
Sag mal, Tim, weil du es gerade gesagt hast, du willst damit denken, noch mal ein bisschen mehr trainieren. Wie hoch ist dein Trainingspensum?
Es ist unterschiedlich. Es kommt natürlich darauf an, wie viel Holz man hat, wie man es organisiert bekommt. Aber zweimal die Woche sollte mindestens drin sein am Holz.
So the question is, how often can he train? And Tim answers about 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the amount of wood that they can get and how much they can actually take the time to get the training in. But that's the goal.
Guido, hast du einen Tipp für ihn? Wie soll er da rangehen?
Ich und Tipps, das wäre keine gute Idee. Was mich jetzt zum Beispiel interessiert, aus so einem Wettkampf wie gestern, ja, was nimmst du in diese 2 Trainingstage in der Woche mit? Also was ist das, was du jetzt auf der Liste hast?
The question is, what are you taking from these 2 training days in the week to the competition?
Genau, das Schlimmste ist halt einfach das, was man sich antrainiert an der Technik, dass die im Wettkampf dann oft einfach nicht mehr abrufbar ist, weil man dann einfach unter einem Stress
So a lot about the technique and making sure that you're really on point, because that's something that is missing a lot during the actual competitions.
ist dann alles andere und da nochmal wirklich dann fokussiert.
And once you've got the technique lined up, you can forget about the rest and just focus on the actual event and taking care of business.
Und wir haben es auch schon mehrfach gesagt, es gibt ja die Möglichkeit, das auch mal auszuprobieren, was die Jungs hier machen. Und zwar in den Trainingscamps, die wir in Melrichstadt in der
Yes, training camps. So if you're in Germany and you want to try out and get involved in timber sports, unfortunately the 8th of October training camp in Melrichstadt in Bavaria is fully booked, but the 24th of September and the 5th of November, there are still spots available, so you could apply now. Just go on to STIHLTimbersports.com and you can find out more information there about how to get involved in timber sports if that's something that interests you. And I can tell you, it sure is a lot of fun.
Das ist, glaube ich, auch die nächste Herausforderung, die ihr euch dann vornehmt als Nachwuchsathleten, ne?
Genau, also Springboard ist bei mir eben noch nicht, habe ich noch keine Freigabe geschafft bisher, ist aber jetzt noch in Übung oder
So
Arbeit.
Tim doesn't have that allowed competition springboard status yet, but that's something that he definitely wants to get involved with. It's going to be a challenge for him because he hasn't really done it a lot yet, and but that's the plan in the next weeks to train and become proficient at that.
Das übernächste Ziel jetzt für den European Nations Cup. Vielen Dank, dass du bei uns warst und viel Spaß beim Wettkampf noch. Ja, und genau diese Springboard-Disziplin, die schauen wir uns jetzt nochmal ganz genau an.
All right, coming up next is springboard. Let's take a look at what that's all about. It's fun. Springboard. Springboard simulates the traditional way of felling trees, climbing up over thick roots. First, notches known as pockets are chopped into the log. 2 springboards are then anchored into these pockets. The athlete then climbs up to chop through a 27-centimeter thick block of wood in the fastest time possible. So the springboard is, how do I put this in terms where I'm not actually swearing into the microphone? It's a very finicky discipline. So many things happen in the springboard in order to make it absolutely and completely the perfect run. And we did see this back in 2016 with Sterling Hart at the Individual World Championships in Stuttgart, where he pulled off a 35.67 second springboard, which is absolutely unbelievable. Dirk Braun is the holder of the German record with a 45.60. You can see the time difference there is a full 10 seconds. The springboard has so many things going on, and the ideal situation is a 4-hit pocket for the first board, get up on the first board, set a 4-hit second pocket, get up on top of that board, making sure that those boards are stable so that you can really put in the power and cut that top block from 2 sides in our first heat with Thomas Hofbauer and Stefano Dwarka. And you can see their times are well over the 1-minute mark by 1:31.96 and 1:27.38. These times always hopefully do get improved as time goes by, but this is, like I said, a very, very difficult discipline to become proficient at because there are so many things going on and happening all at the same time. And you can see those boards with the big metal teeth attached to the front. Those have to secure into the block and make sure that the athlete is secure on that board as he makes his cuts up top. Above all, being up top 2 meters high off the ground with a razor-sharp instrument in your hand, it can be nerve-wracking, to say the least. So Stefano Dwarka weighting the ends of his springboard so they don't slip away as he sets his first pocket and has everything exactly in the right location for this competition. So 4 heats in springboard, and this is where more or less you could say all the marbles for making it to the final round, round number 3 in the hot saw. It comes down to this discipline and having a solid and fast time. So you can see those markings for the pocket they'll set, and once we get competition underway, we'll see exactly how this all comes to be. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Thomas Hofbauer with a 6-hit pocket there. Odvarka, he's got about 8 hits to get his pocket. Hofbauer's board is in good position. This first board isn't as important as the second board as they both start to work on their top pockets now. Thomas Hofbauer, he's got 5, 6 hits for that second pocket, 7 now. Odvarka looking at about the same number and wanting to make sure that that pocket is as clean as possible so that when he does set that second board in place, he's got a nice angle and it doesn't sag or drop down once he puts the weight on there. Both of these guys have their boards up. Odvarka's board looks a little bit better than Hofbauer's. Hofbauer's got a slight sag on it, so that may play a role. And now Odvarka's is starting to sag a bit more too, and you can see Hofbauer is farther back out on the outside edge of his board than Odvarka is, and that means Hofbauer can put more power into the drivers on that top block. Odvarka's sagging it a little bit more, is coming down, and that's going to play havoc with his headspace as well if he starts to feel that board disappearing slowly from underneath his feet. And we've just passed the 1 minute 20 second mark now for both of these guys, and we should see, I'm thinking Hofbauer will switch to the awkward backside before Odvarka does, as he seems to have a better foot position on his board. And they're up very, very high up there at 1.5, 2 meters. And there you go. Hofbauer switches to the other side. You can see what I'm talking about, stepping well forward on the board, working his hands up the axe a little bit there. And 144.61 for Thomas Hofbauer. So that's a great result for him at the moment. He's got a marker in there. For Odvarka, it's going to come down to the wire here about having that thing off the top in the allotted amount of time. He should be able to do it. He's got 30 more seconds to go. Yep, he does it in 2 minutes and 76 hundredths of a second. So both of these guys have cuts that are fair, and they'll come down from their boards there. Now you can see all of the different things that are happening in this discipline and all the things that go on in order to make this discipline efficient and a very difficult discipline to really, really be good at.
All right, both cuts are good.
So the cuts are official. The cuts are good. Thomas Hofbauer with a 144.33. Stefan Odvarka with a 2 minutes even. 50 hundredths of a second at the end of that time. And we can see here, this was that 6-hit pocket from Hofbauer. A lot of the time, the speed of this discipline comes down to placing the pocket or placing the board, getting the pocket cut quickly and efficiently and placing the board so you can get up and start working that top block sooner. The more time you spend on fiddling around with the pocket and making sure that it's exactly right the way that you want it, the more time is taken on the top block, and that just kills your overall time. Plus, it's tiring. You know, you've got a lot of stuff going on down below before you can start putting the power in on top and having that board position exactly right and with the right angle so that you can really put the power in that you need on that block on the top is so, so, so important. So Thomas Hofbauer, yeah, a breath of fresh air, a breath of relief more or less there for him, as he's got a time of 144.33 right now. How long that will stand depends on how the rest of these guys do. Coming up in Heat 2, Nils Müller going up against Stefan Graf. So, of course, our stage crew doing a fantastic job on stage to make sure that everything gets out there and gets locked into place as quickly as possible so our audience and our athletes don't have to wait all that long. But this is one of the most difficult stand changes to make with these huge items that they have on stage, and placing them and securing them properly and then making sure that the stage is clean for the second heat coming up. And you can see Nils Müller with a time, personal best 133.77. Stefan Graf with a personal best time of 113.15. And there we see Stefan Stark's fan club out there. Unfortunately, we don't see him competing anymore, but they are definitely in the mix and making noise and banging drums and having a good time as we take a look at the full house here at the Schirke Feuerstein Arena, which in the wintertime is an ice rink for the local hockey team, and in the summertime is used for roller skating and inline hockey and skater hockey. So lots of activities going on here all the time, and it's always busy and beautiful area here in the Wernigerode in the Harz. It's fantastic scenery, beautiful little towns, lots to look at, see, and do, and it's a outdoors person's absolute dream location. If you like being outdoors, riding bikes, skiing, going for hikes, long walks, whatever is your flavor, this is definitely one of the most beautiful locations in all of Germany to do that. All right, so as I said, heat number 2 coming up with Nils Müller and Stefan Graf. The stage crew has more or less everything set and ready to go up there. And, of course, some more of the fans hanging out down below. Oh, look, you're on TV. Wave, Ma. And you can see this really is a family affair. All manner of folks out there. Boyfriends, girlfriends, moms, dads, kids, the whole bit. And, of course, the family members of our athletes on stage are also attending as Nils Müller, looking very serious for this discipline here, comes out to check his block and stand position and lets them know where they can put the security bar to make sure that that stand is absolutely secure in position. All right, almost ready to go for heat number 2 here with Nils Müller, Stefan Graf. Last minute preparations and the final sets for these guys. And once they're satisfied and once the stage crew and our judges are satisfied, we'll get the whistle and we can go for it.
Ready.
Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So 6-hit pocket for Nils Müller. Stefan Graf in and around 7 or 8 at this point now. Nils Müller's got his first board placed as he struggles to get his axe out. But Stefan Graf, I'm going to say it's a 7-hit pocket and a quick sweep with his hands. Got the board in place and sets his second pocket in work now as both of them still working on that second pocket, passing the 30-second mark. A little bit of tap, tap, tap there by Stefan Graf as he gets that second board in place. You want to make sure that's really locked in place. A quick check there and add some pressure now. Look at the angle of Stefan Graf's board there. And both, actually, he and Nils Müller have deep angles. So Stefan Graf is actually stepped well out to the back with his back foot so he can push off of that back foot and really utilize the pressure on the upper block. Meanwhile, Nils Müller, he's got that back foot a little bit farther forward, and that means he's not able to apply as much drive from that back foot. He's using mostly shoulders and hips to make the power hits and those drivers into the block. Graf just in a little bit of a better position there with that higher angle on his board. You can see the audience there. There's a beautiful view of the arena and the audience in the background. Graf should be switching to the other side any second now. Müller still has quite a ways to go on the first side. Remember, it has to be worked from both sides, but it doesn't matter if it's super deep and you only need one hit on the backside to get through. But Stefan Graf looking very solid here, coming towards the 1 minute 40-second mark. And a couple more drivers for him as he works that axe that keeps getting anchored in there. And a 1:48.04 for the second fastest time thus far. Nils Müller trying to get through that backside as quickly as possible now here. Just going to pass the 2-minute mark, and he's done it at 2:01:04. So Nils Müller, 4th place, just behind Stefano Dwarka, Stefan Graf with a 1:48:04 in 2nd place. Thomas Hofbauer still with the time to beat of 1:44:33. And you can see how difficult this discipline really is. There's so many things going on. It's just a battle of not only your skill level, but also a mental battle to make sure that you're feeling good on that board 2 meters above the ground. All right,
Okay, both cuts are good.
Final thumbs up from Dr. Jörg Kurzenberger, our stage judge and official, and those times will be locked and loaded. Thomas Hofbauer's time of 1:44:33 still yet to be broken. 2 more heats to go. Stefan Graf placing his board, nicely done. A quick check there by Nils Müller as he gets up onto his 2nd board to start working that top block. And you can see the angle was really nice on his board, but the confidence just wasn't there for Nils Müller as he didn't have that back foot far out onto the back of the board where he could have really used that extra power because he's a big man. He's strong. He's got a powerful hit, you know. He is very good in the standing block chop, and that's basically what's happening up on top of that 2nd board. You're doing a standing block chop. You're just not walking around the other side of the block. You're angling your axe at an awkward angle, but you know, he could have used that power a little bit more efficiently had he been farther back out on the board. And here, choking up on the axe a bit for those really strange angles and being right in close to the block, and then finally drops it down in a 2 minutes. And they've just adjusted the time for him. It's 2:00:73, so just a hair slower than Stefano Dwarka's 2:00:50. So there you see our current ranking in springboard with 2 more heats still to go, and that's next heat coming up is heat number 3 with Peter Bauer and Marcel Steinkemper. And again, the boys and girls in the background on the stage, it's like a Formula One pit crew out there cleaning up the stage, making sure there's nothing in the way that can cause problems for our athletes slipping around or falling with that axe in hand, making sure that the stands are secured properly and that they have their safety bars in place where the athlete needs them to be so that it's not in the way of their activity on stage, and they can really get to work and do what they need to do on stage for this discipline. And as we've said from the top, this is an incredibly difficult discipline to become good at and very proficient at. And you know, those fastest times in the world, those are lucky days for those guys, and that's a lot of skill in play as well, as we take a look at some of the garden products that you can buy for your home.
Jeder Aufgabe gewachsen mit Akkupower von STIHL. Jetzt bei Ihrem Stihlfachhandel und auf stihl.de.
Und da sind wir schon wieder zurück und man sieht es hinter uns. Werden die Vorbereitungen getroffen und unser Kollege auf der Bühne, der Tobi, der wirft hier noch einige Devotionalien aus dem Hause STIHL ins Publikum. Auch das sind heiß begehrte Giveaways, die dann dort von den Kindern vor allem, aber auch von Erwachsenen gerne mit nach Hause genommen werden. Und wenn ihr mal dabei sein wollt, dann könnt ihr das immer wieder gerne tun. Wir haben im nächsten Jahr natürlich auch wieder Wettkämpfe. Unter STIHL-Timbersports findet ihr alle aktuellen Informationen natürlich auch auf unseren Social-Media-Kanälen, auf Facebook und auch auf Instagram. Meldet euch einfach in den entsprechenden Gruppen an und dann bekommt ihr alle Informationen, die dann für euch nötig sind, um vielleicht das Wettkampfjahr.
All right, I'm just noticing in the background there we could see our 2 athletes, Peter Bauer and Marcel Steinkemper, coming onto stage. Quick inspection for them to see that their blocks are how they want them. Marcel Steinkemper just indicating where that safety bar should be placed, and he'll get himself ready with his springboards. Peter Bauer doing the same on the other side, and these 2 guys will be ready to battle it out on springboard with 2 boards here coming up. 16 points available for the fastest time in the springboard as well as in the single buck prior. So those points are very important right now for especially Marcel Steinkemper, who is at the moment sitting in 8th place in the overall standings, but yet to compete in this discipline. So assuming that he can get a decent time here, we should see him jump up in the rankings. Personal best for him is 121 in this discipline. Peter Bauer's personal best is noticeably quicker at 102.66. So they need a 147.67 or better, or at least Marcel Steinkemper needs 147.67 or better for the lead in the overall.
Ethy, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Marcel Steinkemper with about 5 hits on that pocket there, gets up on that first board. This will be his first time really doing this discipline at this level against athletes of this level. Peter Bauer has taken a bit more time in getting his board set, so Steinkemper has the advantage at this point right now as he is starting to get working on his second pocket there, Peter Bauer, I mean. And right there, he's got himself a 5-hit pocket, setting that second board. Let's see what the angle looks like as he gets that tooth biting in place, and Steinkemper's already on the top. Steinkemper's got himself a pretty decent board. Peter Bauer's angle is a little bit more, so he might feel more confident to step out on the backside, but Steinkemper with the advantage now as he's fighting hard through that first side of the block, just past the 1-minute mark for both of these guys now. Steinkemper's board is sagging a little bit, doesn't seem to be bothering him. He's got that axe stuck a couple of times. That means he's putting plenty of power into his drivers. Peter Bauer, he's got the better angle for more power. As you can see, he's farther back on the board and going deep on that first side. Looking good for him right now. Steinkemper now adjusting position to work on the backside of the board. He's going to get through. Let's see what the time is going to be for Steinkemper. He's got to beat better than 147.67. Can he do it? Looks like he's getting close. He's angry at that block. He's done it. 132.81. That puts him in first place in the overall standings right now. What a great job by Marcel Steinkemper. What a fighter. He is 132.81. He's gotten a little bit faster than Thomas Hofbauer, and Peter Bauer is also faster than Thomas Hofbauer, so that moves him into first place, pushing Marcel Steinkemper down into second. So a 139.93 for Peter Bauer was good enough for the points to get him into the top spot. So right now, Peter Bauer has 55 points. Marcel Steinkemper with 49. Danny Martin with 45. But Danny Martin has yet to do the springboard event yet. So there's possibilities for points for him. Steinkemper, what a warrior, though. A battle by him to get a great time there. Not his personal best, but I don't think anybody's come close to their personal best yet today.
Both cuts are good.
All right, so Marcel Steinkemper, fastest so far in springboard, sitting second place right now in the overall standings. Remember, folks, the top 6 athletes from the overall ranking after springboard move on to the hot saw. So you can see here, there is that pocket from Marcel Steinkemper. Board is in, he's up there. I didn't get to see how he set his second pocket, but he struggled to get his axe out. He was really amped to get that thing in position. Peter Bauer was up late on his first board, but got his second pocket set pretty quickly with 6 drivers, and then Steinkemper was up on that second board in a pretty decent time and started working the top block with some good power. Peter Bauer had a fast enough time to get himself into the lead, taking 14 points, but that was enough to move him just ahead of Marcel Steinkemper by virtue of a bit of a poor showing by Marcel in the stock saw. You can see here Marcel just fighting hard, a little twist of the axe there, and that final blow just catches himself before he goes down. And there, that was that breath of relief that you see from these athletes when they're 2 meters up in the air and have a 15-pound block attached to the end of their axe after cutting it off and having to hold themselves up there on that board. And Peter Bauer, thanks to the Lord that is done. Springboard so far. Steinkemper at the top of the rankings in springboard. Peter Bauer in second. Hofbauer's time stood for quite a long time, but now he is sitting in third place with Graf, Odwaka, and Müller being fourth, fifth, and sixth respectively, as we have one more heat to go in springboard, and that is with Christoph Lang and Danny Martin.
Ja, was da so für Wettkämpfe stattfinden und stattgefunden haben. Wir haben ja viel über die internationalen Wettbewerbe gesprochen. In diesem Jahr hatten wir 2 Cups in Deutschland.
All right, so far we've had a lot of action this year. In the last couple of weeks we've had a ton. Right now we're looking at the German Pro Championships in Wernigerode here. That is live now. 10th of September and 11th of September, we've got the Swiss Pro Championships and then the European Nations Cup, which we talked about a little bit earlier. And then, of course, at the end of October, the 28th and 29th, the Team World Championship and the Individual World Championships in Gothenburg, Sweden. And, of course, you can visit data.stihl-timbersports.com for updates and full schedules, as well as athlete information, bios, and so on and so forth. So still plenty of action to come this season before we end off the year in October in Sweden. And, of course, today is all about who will represent Germany as the German winner of this event will go on to the World Championships for the individual in Sweden.
Dieser Vibe, diese Stimmung, die Timbersports mittlerweile unter den Leuten verbreitet, die Nähe, die dann auch transportiert wird, weil es ist nicht so, dass die Athleten dann irgendwo verschwinden und nicht nahbar sind, ganz anders beim Timbersports. Die gehen dann zu ihren Fans hin, es werden die Gespräche geführt und das ist dann schon sehr, sehr toll. Macht eine ganz tolle Atmosphäre bei diesen Weltmeisterschaften, bei den Wettkämpfen.
Allein dieser Einlauf von den Athleten, ja, ne? Wenn die dann da die Hände abklatschen von allen Zuschauern,
ja, die Flaggen, die dann geschwenkt werden, alle stehen sie dann oben und du spürst richtig das Wabern und die Herzschläge, das ist toll.
Ja, Wabern und Herzschläge ist ein wunderbares Stichwort, und zwar für den letzten Heat des heutigen Tages im Springboard-Wettbewerb. Und das sind die 2 Athleten, die sich jetzt messen.
Okay, last preparations for Christoph Lang and Danny Martin in this springboard. Danny Martin, everybody's keeping a close eye on him to see if he can definitely have a good springboard here. His best time, 104.87. Christoph Lang, very close to the 2-minute mark on his personal best. How much has he been working on this in the offseason to make sure that he's ready to go? And especially knowing that he's going up against Danny Martin in this head-to-head, it's going to be an interesting one to really push him along here. So here we go with our final heat in the second round and in springboard.
All right, athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
That's a 4-hit pocket for Danny Martin right there. That's a nice pocket. First board, not so important. Like I said, he needs to get that second board solid. And Danny Martin struggling to get that second pocket set. This is an important thing for him right now, to get that board in position, make sure that it is solid. He wants to make sure he can really go to work on that top lock now that he's past the 30-second mark here, and he gets going on it. Christoph Lang still struggling to find that second pocket position and making it absolutely right. Sometimes it's more about the headspace about the pocket than it is about the pocket itself. And he is still working that pocket, clearing it with his hand, and now sets the axe up high and puts his board in place. But is it going to be solid enough for him? It looks good. Danny Martin still working that top block very well, getting deeper on that first side with every driver. Christoph Lang's board is sagging a little bit on the back end. That's going to cause him some problems, but he doesn't seem to care as he's putting in some big drivers coming way off the back of that block. So could he catch up to Danny Martin here? Just passing a minute 15 here for Danny Martin. And it looks like he should switch to the other side any second now. He wants to go a bit deeper, and he's satisfied going over to the other side now. No foot change for Danny Martin. Just changes his hand position, chokes up on the axe handle a little bit. He's going to get through there, passing the minute 30 mark now. Will he be fast enough? 38-33, 138-33, shaking his head, not pleased with that at all. So Danny Martin's time, a 138.33, second place. That's definitely enough to put him up into the top position just ahead of Peter Bauer. Christoph Lang has now about 38 seconds to get through this. 2 minutes 30 is the time limit. He's getting close, though. He's going very deep on that first side. And now he'll switch to the other side. Has a quick look to inspect it. But boy, is he getting close to the mark here. Hopefully he's got no DQ. Oh, he does it. He went so deep on the first side that he knew exactly he only needed a couple of hits on the second side. So Christoph Lang with a 2:12.15, bottom of the barrel for timing for him there. Let's see what that means for Christoph as far as the standings. Fourth place, not bad. And that means we're going to see Danny Martin, Peter Bauer, Marcel Steinkemper, Christoph Lang, Nils Müller, and Thomas Hofbauer competing in the hot saw. We'll make that official in just a moment here. But Marcel Steinkemper, hey, what a great showing for him in the springboard. He was faster than everybody today, including Danny Martin. And that is good enough to get him right now third place in the overall standings. So he's in good stead to move on to the hot saw.
All right, both cuts are good.
There we go. So it is official. Both cuts are good, and our springboard is done and dusted, as is our round number 2. So we will eliminate 2 more athletes as we take a look back here. Danny Martin on the right side of your screen. He should have 4 hits in the pocket here. That's number 3, and unfortunately we don't get to see. That's a beautiful cut right there. He almost could have gone down on the angle and just gotten a 3-hit pocket, but top pocket was the thing that really caused the problem. A little not confident. I think maybe it was just about 7 or 8, and made sure that 2 pocket then stepped up. He wasn't all the way back on his board. Christoph Lang took a long time. He took a long time to get that pocket set, but once he was up there, even though it was sagging, he just didn't seem to care. He put his foot on the back of that board, hanging down at an angle, and just went for it on the top of that block. So that right there is a man on a mission, and you know that he's going to take this back to the bank and go, okay, I need to work on my springboard in the following areas, and you know he's going to come back with a solid springboard next time around. Danny Martin, a quick shake of the head. And there you go. It was 2 hits on the backside for Christoph Lang to finish off that block. Nicely done by both of these guys. But Marcel Steinkemper is the man of the day in the springboard. And Danny Martin sitting in second. Peter Bauer, then Thomas Hofbauer, Stefan Graf, and Stefan Odvorka. Then Nils Müller and Christoph Lang bringing up the rear of springboard. I mean, for the overall, well, of course, Danny Martin's going to be on the top of the rankings there in the overall as we get a graphic look at that shortly. So there you go. Here's the mix-up. Danny Martin at the top with 59 points. Peter Bauer, 53. Marcel Steinkemper with 49. Christoph Lang with 40. Nils Müller with 37 and Thomas Hofbauer with 36. Those will be the top 6 athletes that we will see move on to the hot saw. Unfortunately for Stefan Graf and Stefan Odvarka, they are both eliminated from action today, and then it all comes down to the points that can be gained or lost in the hot saw discipline, which is coming up next.
Und wie der Name es schon sagt, es ist wahrscheinlich der heißeste Wettkampf des Tages. Eben haben wir die Disziplin erlebt, die am längsten dauert. Nämlich, wir haben es erlebt, über 2 Minuten zum Teil. Jetzt geht es um Sekundenbruchteile.
3 heats in hot saw. Getting ready to go. And that is a beast because it can do anything it wants sometimes. That saw can be very, very difficult to handle. Up to 35 kilos, 80 cubic centimeters of power. Those things are monsters, and controlling those tools on stage, it's a different story altogether. It really is the maker or the breaker. We'll take a look at that shortly.
Das ist teilweise schon wirklich absurd, was sich da abspielt. Wir werden darüber sprechen. Und hier ein paar Bilder
von den Athleten.
This is the one and only discipline where the athletes are alone on stage.
Yeah, probably the most important event, but yeah, also the most frustrating.
These saws are so incredibly powerful and dangerous.
Usually the hot saw is the decider.
Timber.
Hot saw, hot saw.
Like I can't describe to you when we're out there under pressure.
Saw starts well, first disc looks solid, cut is good.
You know, you're always ending the competition on a hot saw, so you know where you're going to be at when you finish. So you're either at a real big high or just is what it is.
Nice clean cuts, easy, relaxed.
Der Hot Saw ist für mich die geilste Disziplin der Welt.
5, 6, 8, Robert Ebner, 3 on the deck.
Hot saw is a love-hate for me. I honestly don't get that much enjoyment out of it. I'm not a motorhead. I swallow my pills and eat it.
Once the competition comes, anything can happen. Oh no, a false start by Sterling Hart. What a disaster.
Yeah, it was a disappointment for me. Happens though, it's part of competing.
I saw there's 3 good discs there, but then let that nose come right up underneath the crossover line.
Fortunately, a disqualification.
It all relies on the hot saw.
Oh no.
Irgendwie soll es einfach nicht sein. Und dann springt die Hot Saw nicht an, wieder mal.
Oh man, that is a bummer for Robert Ebner.
What are you taking away from this event?
Oh, probably last place. I don't know, headache. Yeah, shit hot saw. What else do you want?
If you have bad luck or if you did wrong, it's part, just your experience.
Oh my goodness, what an absolute disaster, the chain came off.
I was not disappointed because everybody see that I can be with the guys in front.
It's a bit of a disaster, so it was just operator error, and I didn't perform as well as I would have liked to.
Nice safe cut. Oh no! Oh no!
Never prepared for that situation, but luckily it started and I got 3 wheels and now I'm the world champion.
Yeah, it's the make or break event, you know.
I think you love and you hate it.
Das ist eigentlich immer ein geiles Ding. Ich schneide immer sehr sicher.
Weltrekord wollte ich schneiden, das war immer mein Ziel schon seit Jahren. Und das jetzt hier bei der DM zu machen, natürlich so grandios, kann man eigentlich gar nicht besser schreiben, das Buch, und bin natürlich super glücklich.
Try to make 3 good cuts and no disqualification.
The hot saw is where it's all one, so that's the best event.
Well, you can hear in the background the hot saw is getting warmed up, and it's just going to get so incredibly loud in this arena. You wouldn't even believe the amount of volume that these saws can create. To just do its own thing if it decides to. If it doesn't want to work with you, if it doesn't want to work for you, if it doesn't want to work at all, then it's going to do that. It is the maker or breaker discipline, as you did see from that short clip there. It's really anybody's game out there with the hot saw, and there's still 18 points to be had in the hot saw discipline. So when we move into here, the top 3 guys can still take home the overall title if something untoward happens with the top 3 guys, and the bottom 3 guys have a chance to move up the ladder to a very solid ranking position.
gesehen, wir haben Führende mit der Hand schon an der Medaille gesehen und dann funktioniert es beim Anreißen nicht.
So it looks like we are almost ready. Our stage is set. Our blocks are in position. We just need saws and athletes on stage. But before that, we are going to find out a little bit more about the tool and discipline of our next event here, the hot saw.
So einen solchen Wettkampf, auch mental so anspruchsvoll. Ja, du kommst da raus gegen diesen Feind Hot Saw, den du eigentlich irgendwie liebst, weil bei Robert ja auch. Er hat gesagt, es ist die geilste Disziplin der Welt.
Deutscher Rekordhalter.
Deutscher Rekord.
4,87.
Weltrekord gehabt
letztes Jahr.
noch,
Richtig,
ja.
ja.
Und das zeigt so diese Love-Hate-Relationship, die sie haben. Wenn es funktioniert, ist das ist vielleicht wie beim Golfschlag. Ja? Wenn der eine oder andere von euch Golf spielt und das nicht so gut kann, du hast Tage, da triffst du das Ding und dann fliegt das Ding 200 Meter und das ist die größte Sportart der Welt. Und wie einfach. Und der nächste Schlag höppelt dir dann 10 Meter vor die Füße. Und so ähnlich ist das vielleicht auch bei der Hot Saw. Ja. Natürlich weißt du, wie es geht, aber es klappt halt nicht immer.
Ja, denn es kommt, das haben wir ja gerade gesagt, auf die absolut Hundertstelsekundenentscheidungen an. Und ja, wir wollen mal auf der Bühne eine solche Säge zeigen, was da alles drinsteckt an Technik. Das ist überragend.
Go, Baby, go. Ja, wahnsinnig schwer. Wir haben ja da auch PS-Zahlen, die man dann auch kontrollieren muss. Hier steht sie dann auch an. Die wird jetzt aufgewärmt von Nils Müller. Sein Baby.
All right, so Thomas Hofbauer, Nils Müller. It looks like Nils Müller is warming up his saw now. Interesting that we didn't get that notification that both athletes can warm up their saw. They usually have about a few seconds to warm up the saws and make sure that everything is running as planned. This is a cold start situation, so that means they have to rewrap their starter cord and reset everything and start with a pull for the competition. Now it looks like Thomas Hofbauer is having trouble getting his saw fit all together. Is it running now? It seems like it. And I'll tell you what, right now, if this event is happening here with these guys on stage, that's Christoph Lang actually right now warming up that saw. So should be Thomas Hofbauer and Nils Müller on stage at the moment, but just some final checks on all of the saws, I guess, is what's happening up on stage based on the amount of space. And there's Danny Martin. Quick oiling of the chain. That chain can move at up to 200 kilometers per hour. So making sure that that thing is well lubed and doesn't get sparky or bitey is very, very important. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening out there at the moment. All the guys just didn't have enough space in the back area, so they're just testing up the saws and making sure that everything is absolutely as hoped on stage there. And you can see these saws are very, very heavy, very, very powerful, tuned saws. Some of them have the Wankel motor. Some of them have the Rotax motor, two different types of engine designs. A little bit of honoring the memory of Dirk Brown, who had the world record at the German Championships a few years ago and unfortunately passed away recently, and it was a big loss for this timber sports community. One of the real gentlemen of the sport. And you can see Danny Martin. Minor checks now on the saw. Can feel and you can hear and feel how the saw is running. Right now, checking the amount of air that's coming in there. Unbelievable machines. That very saw that you see right there that Danny Martin has, I had in my hands. That thing is heavy. Just lifting the saw when it's not running required effort. And I can't even imagine what it's like to lift that saw while the motor is running, the shaking, the rotational forces, the centrifugal forces, and then lining it up and cutting 3 good cookies without making a complete disaster of either your block that you're cutting or the motor that you're running or whatever. It's just an unbelievable machine.
Hat der Robert den Rekord gehabt.
All right, it seems like all of the saws are ready to go on stage. Our athletes are ready to go. Thomas Hofbauer and Nils Müller will be the first athletes out, but I still think that we have to show you a little bit about the tool and discipline here in hot saw, and that's coming up next.
Wir haben ja das Gesamtranking, glaube ich, gar nicht groß gezeigt eben nach dem Springboard. Da führt Danny Martin mit 59 Punkten vor Peter Bauer, der hat 53 Zähler. Und da kommt dann jetzt auch, wie gerufen, noch einmal die Grafik, um das für euch auch noch mal bildlich darzustellen. Das also der Stand vor der entscheidenden Disziplin. Danny Martin führt mit 6 Zählern vor Peter Bauer. Der wiederum hat 4 Punkte Vorsprung auf Marcel Steinkämper und Christoph Lang 9 Punkte dahinter. Das ist natürlich eine Strecke, diese 9 Punkte noch aufzuholen, um aufs Podium zu kommen. Bisschen weit, aber auch nicht unmöglich. Da muss nur was schief gehen an der Hot Saw. Also es wird einfach unglaublich spannend. Diese letzte Disziplin noch einmal. Es wird jetzt
so among the top 3, you can see there's still room for anything to happen. With 18 points up for grabs for the fastest time in hot saw, it's anybody's game.
Bei den Disziplinen. Keine einzige hat Danny gewonnen. Es ist die Konstanz, die den Erfolg bringt, auch heute bis jetzt. Und jetzt gibt es dann gleich eben die Hot Saw. Wir haben das Aufwärmen gezeigt, wir haben die Jungs gezeigt, wir haben darüber gesprochen. Und jetzt fühlen wir uns euch technisch.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we do have the tool and discipline to give you a little bit more insight as to what is going on with these machines. Let's check it out.
These custom, handmade, race-tuned machines are built for maximum power and precision and to cut the wood as fast as possible in a competition. They are built with a 60 to 80 horsepower single-cylinder 2-stroke engine, often taken from a snowmobile or high-powered motorbike. The hot saw can weigh up to 30 kilograms and its chain rotates at over 250 kilometers an hour. The cost of a competition hot saw used in STIHL Timbersports is upward of 6,000 euros. Hot saw. For the hot saw, power saws are called into action and the athletes have a space of 15 centimeters to cut 3 complete discs off a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. Jumping the start or cutting over the line will result in a disqualification.
Alrighty, hot saw, Thomas Hofbauer, Nils Müller going up against each other. Christoph Lang, Marcel Steinkämper in heat number 2, and Peter Bauer and Danny Martin in heat number 3. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to be in that last heat with Danny Martin and Peter Bauer. You know, the advantage is that Danny Martin can see what everybody else has done, so if everybody else makes a complete cock-up of the whole situation and makes a mess of their runs, he can relax and really flow through his cuts. On the other hand, if the other guys have really good times and maybe even somebody breaks a record in those first 2 heats, then the pressure is on Danny Martin or Peter Bauer to try and get a fastest time possible, and that can mess with your nerves if you are not really ready to go. But these guys are definitely ready to go. So first heat number 1, Thomas Hofbauer up against Nils Müller. Nils Müller will occupy the right-hand side of the stage, or stand number 2, and Thomas Hofbauer there in the blue will be on the left-hand side of the stage, or stand 1. And you can see that massive bar on the front with the wider midsection, a bit of a bulbier midsection of the bar as compared to the saw. I believe it's a different style for Niels Müller. No, he's got the similar style as well. But I like the Go Baby Go button on his motor body there. So a couple of similar saw bars. The question is, who will be the faster of the two, and who will set the time to beat? So many things going on here. Don't blink, folks. It's going to go by real fast.
All right. Warm up your saw.
So they do get to warm up their saws one last time before competition. And then they will be shut down. The starter cord will be rewrapped, and they will have to have a quasi cold start for the actual race. They've got to cut 3 cookies. A cutout or a cut over the line means a disqualification, and that can happen very easily with these saws, with the amount of shaking and baking that's going on with these massively powerful motors and all that centrifugal force that's happening. So let's see if these boys can keep it together in heat number 1 here for hot saw. It is the final discipline here at the German Pro Championship 2022. 3 heats to determine who will be the German champion and who will go on to the World Championship in October.
Ready.
Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Personal best for Hofbauer. Unfortunately, that first cookie was a major cutout, so he doesn't have a complete cookie. That's going to mean a disqualification, and he just didn't have enough room to make a third cookie. So unfortunately for Thomas Hofbauer, another personal best is out the window possibility-wise, and Niels Müller with a 9.01 time in his cuts. If everything is okay, he's just checking the line at the bottom. Maybe he's got a DQ as well. Let's see what our judges have to say once they've had a look. And as I said, this is not an easy tool to navigate through that little tiny marking there, 15 centimeters of space, and anything can go wrong really quickly with these very powerful machines.
Okay, stand 1, DQ incomplete disc. Stand 2, DQ as well. Cut the line.
Too bad for both of these guys. So our first heat are DQs. And as I said, those things are so powerful. Controlling them is the main thing. And once they're going, once the adrenaline kicks in, and once those machines are moving, yeah, and let's take a look at this again here. There on the left-hand side, you can see the cutout from Thomas Hofbauer. And then here's Niels Müller. He had to position that saw. He knew he had a cutout happening, so he repositioned gingerly and made his first cut, which is quite angular, going down towards the bottom. And then on the way back up, he had a nice thin cookie repositioned for that top cut, but the angle again was towards that line on the inside, and he cut the line at the bottom. And here for Thomas Hofbauer, he had 2 good cookies, and he wanted to go back up and cut a third, but realized he just didn't have enough space to cut it cleanly, cut out, and said, no, there's no chance for me. He knew it was a DQ at that point, with no possibility to make a third cookie and get a fair time. So unfortunately for our first 2 athletes, it's DQs across the board. And we move on to heat number 2 with Christoph Lang going up against Marcel Steinkemper. Christoph Lang with a 6.98 personal best, Steinkemper with a 10.61. Hey, I mean, if these guys can just block those with a couple hundredths of a second on top, they'll be fine to get some points in the block. There we can see the difference in the bar type, that steel harvester bar out at the front of that monster machine of Marcel Steinkemper. The flat bar, my opinion, is a little bit higher risk of the chain coming off the bar more easily than with those bulbous bars where they're a little bit fatter through the middle, like what you're seeing there for Christoph Lang. He's got a bar that's a little bit fatter through the middle, and I just, you know, each has their advantages and disadvantages, of course, so let's just see how these two saws react and how their cuts are. Unbelievable machines, these things, unbelievable.
Seconds.
Okay. Couple of powerful boys with a couple of powerful saws ready to cut 3 cookies. Will we have clean cookies on the deck, or will we have another set of DQs? Here we go.
Athletes,
don't
ready.
Blink.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, Christoph Lang with a personal best, 6.95. Marcel Steinkemper struggling with another cookie there with an 11.59. It looks like they're all good. It's about checking the lines and everything and making sure that everyone is good with their cuts here. 3 cookies on the deck, though, for Christoph Lang. It looks good for him and a personal best. That's going to put him atop the ranking there with the fastest time in hot saw. Very nice job by Christoph. Marcel Steinkemper with an adjustment at 11.48. Looks like the cuts are good for him as well. Hopefully everything is all good. Wait for the judge's call.
Both cuts are good.
All right, so Danny Martin still with a possibility to win this thing. Marcel Steinkemper in the lead with 64 points right now. If Danny Martin gets a DQ, and if Peter Bauer gets a time that's slower than Marcel Steinkemper, that means Marcel Steinkemper will be your champion. But it still has to be decided in the last heat of the day. Little bit of tentative positioning by Marcel Steinkemper, wanting to make sure that everything is absolutely right. Better to have the safe cuts at this point than to get a DQ here. And that was a beautiful set of cuts from Christoph Lang. Absolutely fantastic final cut there. Thin to win is the word of the day in that case. Very nice job. Okay, final heat of the day, final heat of the discipline. Who will be our German champion? Will it be Marcel Steinkemper, or will Danny Martin have good cuts, get the points he needs, and take over that top spot? Or will Peter Bauer surprise everybody with a fantastic cut of the day and move up to the top spot? That can only happen if Danny Martin gets a DQ. And we'll see how that boils down when these two guys come on stage with their machines. $18 points up for grab. Christoph Lang at the moment with those 18 points. Marcel Steinkemper in the second position with 15 points. Thomas Hofbauer, Nils Müller, both of them with DQs thus far. So all that can happen now is Peter Bauer and Danny Martin both have good cuts and push everybody down the ranking. And we'll see what happens with these two gentlemen on stage. Last minute fuel ups and oil and everything that needs to be done by Peter Bauer. Danny Martin making his check marks on the block to see if his alignment is correct. Quick call of Schul Janssen our other judge on stage to just point out something on the block. You can see those marks that he puts on, help guide him place the saw during those cuts, making sure that nothing missing from the equation for those cuts. Peter Bauer's best time 6:13, Danny Martin's best time 5:24. German record 4:87 set by Robert Ebner. World record at the moment set by Adam Lethko at the United States Pro semifinal.
All right, warm up.
4:62.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. All right, Danny appears to be ready. Peter Bauer appears to be ready as well.
Seconds.
All right, folks, last seed of the day. Peter Bauer, Danny Martin. This is for all the marbles. A lot of pressure on Danny Martin's shoulders right now. He just needs to breathe deep, be calm, collected, and cool for these cuts. And make sure he gets 3 cookies on the floor in whatever time to make sure he gets the points he needs to be the winner here today.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, it's a good cut right now for Danny Martin. Oh, that's a beautiful cut. 5.56 and 6.51 for Peter Bauer. Fantastic cut. Is the line good? And Danny Martin is pumped up. That's the fastest time of the day with a bullet. 95 hundredths of a second faster than Peter Bauer. Peter Bauer with the second fastest time. And I think there's no question about it. As long as we have 3 good cookies and no cut lines, Peter Bauer and Danny Martin are going to have the 1-2 punch there. And Danny Martin will take the overall win.
Okay, both cuts are good.
It's official, and the people in the audience here are standing on their feet after that one. The official time for Danny Martin, 5.46, the fastest time in the hot saw results, and that means he is going to be the #1 in the overall standings and your German champion with 77 total points, just ahead of Peter Bauer's 68 and Marcel Steinkemper's 58. We'll see these 3 gentlemen on the podium, but those cuts were fantastic for Danny Martin and from Peter Bauer. A little bit of a pause there by Peter Bauer as he got a portion of the body of the saw stuck on the block on the upcut. He would have been a little bit faster had that not happened, but these guys are trying to be so efficient and get in as close as possible, and those cuts from Danny Martin, so consistent, so solid, so fantastic. We're going on to the main stage right now where Danny is with our stage moderator, Tobias Witten. How do you feel? Awesome. There's no other translation. Awesome. Well, the question was whether or not Marcel was really pushing him today, and yeah, he said Marcel really pushed him, and there were a couple of times during qualification rounds that he was really questioning whether or not he'd be able to get past Marcel. But at the end of the day, you know, when the music plays, he's got to be able to dance and see who's staying at the end of the day. All right, he said he's looking forward to being on stage with all the big boys from the world of STIHL Timbersports, and hopefully he'll get to cut hot saw with them in Sweden. All right, so we see the hot saw rankings there. A beautiful time of 5.46 for Danny Martin. Peter Bauer with a 6.31, just 0.85 of a second back. And Christoph Lang with a personal best 6.88. Marcel Steinkemper, after adjustment, with an 11.48, 6 seconds off pace. But, you know, this is his first German championships as a pro, and he is definitely going to be improving on that. In the overall final results, Danny Martin stays on top with a solid 77 points. Peter Bauer will have the silver medal position with 68 points. We'll see him on the podium along with Marcel Steinkemper. A bronze medal here for the young man in his first German championship as a pro. You can't complain about that. Marcel Steinkemper showing that he definitely has the skills to pay the bills, and we will definitely see him pushing Danny Martin and all the other pros down the road as he improves from event to event. And we'll also see him in Sweden competing with the team. So that's all she wrote for today. We'll have the award ceremony shortly, and our champagne shower as is expected for our athletes out there. But Danny Martin, what a great job today. Top ranked all the way across the board. He was solid and consistent throughout the day, and made sure that he stayed in the mix all day long. Underhand chop, Danny Martin was in third position. In the stock saw, Danny Martin was third position. Standing block chop, second position. Single buck, he was in second position. On the springboard, in second position. And then in the hot saw, the fastest of the day. So third, second, third, or third, second, and then a first. That's steady improvement and staying consistent throughout the day. A very good job by him. As far as Marcel Steinkemper is concerned, he was the fastest of the day on the underhand chop in the stock saw. We saw him struggle a little bit and ended up down in 10th position with a very slow time of 12.46. We were expecting a bit more from him there, but then he came back in the standing block chop with a third place in the single buck. He was also pretty solid, but not as fast as expected in 5th place. And the springboard, well, I mean, the springboard, Marcel was very, very good. The #1 guy with a time of 1:32.36, and then in the hot saw, you know, a time of 11.48 with a couple of hovers there to make sure that he had those clean cuts to get the points and make sure he was safe. But, you know, he's going to improve on that one as well. 4th place for Marcel in the hot saw. So a good day for those two gentlemen all together. If we look back at the day for Peter Bauer, he was 4th place in the underhand chop. For the stock saw, he was 5th place. Standing block chop, we had him in 5th place. In the single buck, he was fastest in the single buck, #1 spot. In the springboard, 3rd place, and then in the hot saw, 2nd fastest with a beautiful 6.31. So pretty consistent day for Peter Bauer as well. And we are going to bring all our athletes back on stage from 10th position all the way up till 4th position. And then we will run our award ceremony with our top 3 guys on the podium.
Was mich gefreut hat, kaum DQs, also kaum gelbe Flaggen. Ja, das ist auch oftmals so ein Zeichen für Unsicherheit. Ja, nicht austrainiert sein, Dinge machen, die ich normalerweise nicht mache. Das hat alles nicht stattgefunden. Also es gab ganz, ganz wenige Disqualifikationen.
All right, looks like our athletes are ready to join on stage.
Da darf man das, da gehört das dazu. Also das ist schon Weltmeistern.
And as I said, we'll bring them up from 10th position up until 4th position. And then our top 3 for our award ceremony.
Einmal alle 10 Athleten auf die Bühne geholt von Tobias Witter, der das Ganze oben auf der Bühne führt.
So, Tobias Witten on stage, bringing up our athletes, and we'll introduce them one by one. So representatives from Ford, Germany, as well as from STIHL, up on stage to present the awards. And now we're bringing up our athletes. In 10th position, Andreas Strive.
Diesen Wettkampf beendet, wird nicht zufrieden sein, das brauchen wir hier überhaupt nicht verhehlen. Aber von ihm haben wir auch schon deutlich bessere Wettbewerbe gesehen. Da weiß man, dass er entsprechend mehr Potenzial besitzt und irgendwann mit Sicherheit auch noch mal einen raushauen wird. Heute Rang 10 für ihn.
Und dann geht jetzt
Next up.
eine Ära zu Ende. Da läuft's den Rücken runter.
Before that, congratulatory medals going around. 10th place for Andreas Strive. And a historical run has come to an end here today. 57 years old, absolute legend in the STIHL Timbersports world, and one of the absolute fan favorites. He's got his fan club out on the front row here in their yellow shirts and yellow hats. Let's bring him out. This is his final contest ever, Stefan Stark. Now we've got a clip of Stefan Stark, some highlights from his career.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, what did Timbersports mean to you? He says, yeah, I've spent 18 years, I put my life and soul into it, and at the end, he said, yeah, you made me cry.
Sich jetzt hier tatsächlich auch den Tränen freien Lauf lassen. Diesen Moment lassen wir einfach mal so stehen.
An absolute gentleman of the sport, Stefan Stark. 9th place here today, and 18 years, absolutely fantastic. And a collage picture set up for Stefan Stark from STIHL Timbersports. Absolutely fantastic. What a way to end a fantastic career in Timbersports.
Da kann man schon verstehen, dass da ein bisschen das Wasser in den Augen steht.
Okay, moving on. We're moving to the 8th place in today's contest. Stefan Odvaka.
Rang 8 mit 32 Zählern. Stefan Odvaka an der Stocksaw gewonnen. Richtig einen rausgehauen. Aber danach Standing, Single und Springboard. Da hat es dann nicht gereicht, um dann weiter auf diesem Niveau zu punkten. Danny hat es ja schon erklärt, du musst am Ende in jeder Disziplin unter den ersten dreien sein, um eine Chance zu haben auf den Titel.
Next up in 7th place, Stefan Graf. 35 points today. Solid across the board, but
einen Punkt.
Little bit of room for improvement, but middle of the pack at the moment here today.
In der dritten Runde der 45-Jährige aus Leutershausen in Bayern, auch schon seit 15 Jahren.
And you know he's going to be coming back strong. He's been busy in
Heute der 7. Platz.
timber sports for 15 years. Doesn't look like anything's going to stop him from continuing on and continuing to be a competitor. All right, next up we have 6th place Thomas Hofbauer. Standing block chop, he managed to get himself a personal best. Believe he did that as well in the single buck. Not 100% sure there, I can't remember. But he's had a solid day today.
So gut wie nie. Ich glaube, man kann sagen, so gut wie nie, was die Zeiten angeht. Sechster, auch 2021.
Yeah, Thomas Hofbauer was the fastest in stunning block chop with a personal best, as well as in single buck, getting a personal best there as well. And now coming out is Nils Müller in 5th place today. After injury in 21, he comes back in 22. Solid performance here today. Unfortunately, a DQ in the hot saw, but pretty solid across the board. And now our 4th place athlete, Christoph Lang. Man, he was solid in hot saw, a great time. Single buck as well, standing block, or stock saw and single buck. Very, very good. Springboard, he struggled a bit. That was the thing that kicked him a little bit in the shins today, but you know he's going to improve. And now, moving on to our top 3 in the bronze medal position. In 3rd position, Marcel Steinkemper. He came on strong, winning the underhand chop and showing that he really wanted to do some damage here today. Unfortunately for him, stock saw was the worst discipline with a little bit of a bobble, and that put him on the back of his, in the back seat a little bit on his heels. But then he came back strong in standing block chop, in single buck, and of course in the springboard, which he won. And the hot saw, he had a solid performance, but wanted to play it safe with an 11-second time and change. But Marcel Steinkemper, 3rd place at his first ever German Pro Championships. Well done for that young man coming out of the rookies with some solid performances here today.
Nur 3 Zähler für ihn gemacht. Und das ist der Unterschied. Da hat Peter Bauer 5 Punkte mehr gemacht als er. Das ist die Trophäe, die gewichtige Trophäe.
So 58 points for Marcel Steinkemper in the bronze medal position. 10 points ahead of him in silver medal is Peter Bauer with 68 points. A great performance here today. He was very, very consistent throughout the day, improving as the day went on. Underhand chop, stock saw, standing block. Pretty solid scores there, but then a very good single buck, a solid springboard, and a fantastic hot saw for Peter Bauer. Gives him 2nd place and the silver medal at the German Pro Championships 2022.
Und da sind die Jungs natürlich auch bemüht, da ihre Zeiten zu setzen. Da einen Einzelwettkampf gewinnst, dann ist das natürlich auch etwas. Marcel zum Beispiel beim Underhand-Chop. Er ist an der Single-Buck, Peter Bauer, der Beste gewesen. Und jetzt kommt der Beste der Besten.
And now your champion for the German Pro Championships 2022, getting the German Championship under his belt in this year with a fantastic set of results. 77 points, the fastest hot saw of the day, and improving as the day went on his positions. Number 1, the German champion, Danny Martin.
Das wird eine Genugtuung für ihn sein, dass dieses Ziel erreichen konnte, sein Triple, sein persönliches Triple voll zu machen. Jetzt schielt natürlich schon auf die internationalen Wettbewerbe, auf den European Nations Cup nächste Woche, aber auch natürlich auf die Weltmeisterschaften, zu denen er höchstwahrscheinlich auch als deutscher Vertreter reisen darf in der Einzelwertung.
So there you go, podium, Danny Martin in number 1 spot, Peter Bauer in the number 2 spot, and Marcel Steinkemper in the number 3 spot. That is your podium. And now the all-encompassing champagne shower. The best part of the day for these guys as the battle continues to see who can get the wettest and more covered in champagne than anybody else. Yes, it burns the eyes, Danny. Get used to that, buddy. Well done by all 3 of those guys on our podium. A fantastic day today here in the Schirker Feuerstein Arena in Wernigerode in the beautiful Harz area. One more time for the pictures on stage, and I will say goodbye from my side. We hope you guys enjoyed the show today. One more to go before we hit the big show. And the Nations Cup in 1 week's time. Make sure you join us for that. And then on the 28th and 29th of October is the individual and team world championships coming to you from Sweden. And if you want to get involved in the conversation, hashtag STIHL TIMBERSPORTS and of course hashtag KISSMYAXE. Till next time, everybody, take care. Troy Mannering signing off from the Harz. Take care, everybody, and ciao.
Und wünschen euch noch viel Spaß mit STIHL TIMBERSPORTS. Natürlich werden auch die nächsten Wettkämpfe, über die wir heute sehr viel geredet haben, auf unseren Social-Media-Kanälen zu sehen sein. Also bleibt dran und auf stihl-timbersports.de gibt es alle weiterführenden Informationen. Guido, ich sage Dankeschön, hat mit dir wieder einen ganz großen Spaß gemacht.
Darf mich bedanken.
Und damit, ja, wünschen wir euch noch einen schönen Restsonntag. Guido ist dann bei den internationalen Wettbewerben wieder dabei, da werdet ihr diese Stimme wieder hören. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen heute und alles Gute, lasst es euch gut gehen. Bis demnächst. Ciao.
Bis bald, ciao.